April 25th. Do we have any comments, questions, changes, edits, additions, subtractions? By anyone? Members?
I read through. I was good with them.
I looked at them
Did everybody
briefly. I didn't see
read them
anything in it.
copiously?
Yes, I
Okay.
read them
Yes.
with a red pen.
All right.
No, I didn't see anything that jumped out at me.
Okay. Someone want to make a motion to?
We'll make a motion.
All right. Motion to accept the minutes of April 25th. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? So moved. All right. Okay, continued public hearings. We have 336 North Main Street, Middleton Farms LLC. This is a special permit to allow contracting equipment storage yard, site plan approval for proposed industrial building and outdoor storage yard. Do we have anybody here for that?
Good evening, Jill Mann here on behalf of Middleton Farms LLC, the owner of 336 North Main Street. When we were here last time, we had a decision pending before the board, but the town did want to have Attorney Tallerman go through all of those conditions to ensure that the particular agreements, that intermunicipal agreement between Middleton and North Andover would be conditions to any development and conditions to any permits issued. So I believe that you have a copy of that decision with all of Attorney Tallerman's comments in it. All of those are acceptable to my client. They're more than reasonable, and we understand that our obligation is to proceed with both the town of North Andover, the town of Danvers, and the town of Middleton in order to forge that agreement.
Okay, and I've reviewed Council Talman's edits as well. Other members, have you seen these?
Yeah, it addresses my comments from last meeting.
Okay. Greg, any additional discussion or comment on this?
Hours of operation, or, sorry, hours of construction.
Yeah, I left that one blank, you know, whatever's your traditional or
I
whatever
think
you want.
typically we go 7 to 7 on that.
7 to 7. Do we have a bylaw or anything? We don't have a bylaw?
No, I'm just saying, like, that's just
Yeah.
typically what we found doesn't cause
I didn't know what you wanted to do
complaints.
Sundays and then, you know, maybe let them have a break for inside work or whatever. I just left it blank knowing that you probably have a stock provision that you could post in there.
The last one you did, I think, was North Main, 177. That only restricted them outside construction.
Okay.
Members happy with that? 7 to
So-
7?
But
Monday to
we'll
Friday.
also amend it to say the hours of outside construction to not affect any indoor work.
Yeah.
The other thing I had was on condition 16, as dust mitigation and street sweeping must be performed weekly or more frequently as directed by the building commissioner throughout the construction process. I think I might add, it's just a pretty big site, it's gonna be a lot of construction. I would add track pads to that as well. That'll keep from tracking material onto, well, in this case, state highway, but
Yep.
nonetheless.
So amended, so dust mitigation, including
including
track pads
and street
sweeping.
Yep.
And just for the purposes of the board, Chris just told me they are shown on the plan, but it always is best to reference as well in the condition. I just want to make sure you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in the stormwater too.
Members, anything else on any of the conditions that have been prepared? I think some of them are just general conditions as well, but anything else? So, just so I'm clear on this, the commissioner can't issue an access permit until this water issue is resolved. You're aware of
And
that,
Mass
right?
DOT signs off as well, because as you remember, we triggered a warrant.
You're good with that, Scott?
Yeah, it's the agreement. It's the agreement, not the,
Intermunicipality agreement.
not the construction of the connection.
Construction is
Construction is
for
occupancy.
occupancy. That's fair. Amendment that works.
You good with that, Scott? Okay. All right, any additional questions or comments or conditions? Hearing none. Is there anyone from the public that has any question or comment on this? Seeing none. Mr. Hotwell?
Give me a second. me. Mr. Chair, I will move that the board make the following findings. Pursuant to our authority under sections 9.5.1 and 9.4.1, to issue the following findings. First, that the plans, application, and other submittals satisfy the submittal requirements of 9.5.5 of the bylaws. Two, the petitioner provided credible evidence which was reviewed and confirmed by TEC, the ICDRC, the planning board, and various department heads, including the Middleton Fire Department, that the layout and design of the building for the project will not be substantially more detrimental and will be an overall benefit to the town and the neighborhood. Specifically, the beneficial impacts on the natural environment. The site changes include installation of a Title V compliant septic system and a fully compliant stormwater management system, the raising of all existing structures, and the construction of a new state-of-the-art industrial structure that complies with all current safety, energy, environmental, and building code regulations, will protect the environment and neighboring properties. Concerning the community need, the raising of the existing structures and the new construction supports the community's interest in preserving and enhancing the aesthetics along Route 114 and encouraging new businesses to open in town that will create additional jobs and add to the existing tax base. Concerning the consonant development characteristics, the redevelopment of the property is consonant with the other properties located along Route 114 and will result in a more stylized commercial facade that will be in harmony with the existing commercial and industrial buildings that surround the property. There is a robust landscape buffer along the property's boundaries with the abutting residential uses that consist of large evergreen trees and an 8-foot-high, 264-foot-long privacy fence. Concerning the positive economic and fiscal impacts, the assessed value of the property will increase with the redevelopment and therefore will generate additional tax revenues for the town. Concerning the site plan approval requirements of section 9.5.11.1, 4.1, 5.1, 5.3, 5.4, and 6.4, the project satisfies all applicable site plan approval requirements of the bylaw, including but not limited to dimensional density, parking, egress, and performance standards. 62 parking spaces will be constructed where 60 spaces are required. Concerning the vehicular and pedestrian safety, the redevelopment of the property provides visitors, occupants, and first responders adequate space to enter, exit, and navigate safely throughout the property. There will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians. The new parking areas are located between the buildings and to the sides of the building, thus having minimal impact on heavy vehicle truck traffic and loading activities that will take place in the rear of the building. The project requires the construction of a new access driveway that will be reviewed and conditioned by Mass DOT to ensure safety. Concerning the site improvements and utilities, as demonstrated by the plans, the site layout properly considers lighting requirements, signage, landscaping, septic system capacity, water and electric service, waste disposal requirements, stormwater and drainage requirements, and will provide for overall site improvements that are more than sufficient to address the needs of the occupants of and the visitors to the property. Water supply design for both domestic and fire suppression shall be designed and approved by the Middleton Department of Public Works, Danvers Water Department, and the Middleton and North Andover Fire Departments. In addition to other local, state, and federal permits required to undertake the project, the petitioner has applied for and received site plan review special permit from the North Andover Planning Board. Petitioner has filed a notice of intent for the project with the Middleton and North Andover Conservation Commissions to allow limited work within the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. Petitioner also has filed applications for stormwater management permits from the Middleton and North Andover Conservation Commissions. The project also meets the threshold requirements for an MEPA review that will consist of the filing of an environmental notification form under 302 CMR 11.00 that will be reviewed by the Secretary of Energy and Environmental Affairs to ensure that the project will not have any substantial detrimental effects on the environment. The project also requires a National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System Construction General Permit to be filed with and obtained from the United States Environmental Protection Agency.
Okay, motion made.
I'll second that.
We have a second. Any additional discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Mr. Hartwell.
Based on the aforementioned findings and the board's authority to grant such relief under section 9.4 of the bylaws, I will move that pursuant to section 9.4 and section 3.1.2 and the Table of Use Regulations C, Commercial 20, Contracting and Equipment Storage Yard, to authorize the use of the Middleton units and storage yard as contractor offices and equipment and material storage, subject to compliance with the general conditions attached hereto as Exhibit A and the special conditions attached hereto as Exhibit B. More specifically, prior to the, number one, prior to the receipt of a building permit, the petitioner shall design and provide an intermunicipal water connection, provide for intermunicipal water connection among North Andover, Danvers, and Middleton that shall be used for water emergencies only. To connect the two municipal water lines, petitioner is required to undertake the following at its sole cost and expense. First, to conduct testing of the chemical composition of the water from each municipality to confirm that the blending of the two water supplies will be complementary, and inspect and issue a report that the capacity of the existing infrastructure can accommodate the connection, and engineer the extensions of the two water mains and the connection, and construct the extended line and extension prior to the issuance of occupancy permits. Number two, petitioner will work with the town of North Andover and the town of Middleton on an intermunicipal agreement that will first authorize the intermunicipal water connection between North Andover, Danvers, and Middleton, and authorize the structure that is located in Middleton to use water from the North Andover water system. Such agreement shall be subject to the review and approval of town council. An IMA or intermunicipal agreement must be executed prior to the issuance of a building permit. 3, petitioners shall submit and shall obtain a final approved design for supplying domestic water and fire protection for the project. The water supply design shall be approved by both the town of Middleton and North Andover prior to any building permits being issued or any land being disturbed in connection with the project. Such water supply must be fully constructed prior to the receipt of occupancy permits. 4, petitioner shall meet all Massachusetts Department of Transportation regulations concerning the traffic signalization and roadway improvements to Route 114. 5, petitioner shall submit to the board any access limitations imposed by Mass DOT and review with Mass DOT the traffic signal warrant analysis for the intersection of Route 114, Sandalwood Street, and Sharpters Pond Road, and the project's need for project-specific mitigation and the trip distribution analysis referencing the latest U.S. Census Bureau's journey to work information as it relates to the volume of left turns entering the site from Route 114 westbound and the potential need for an auxiliary left turn lane. 6, petitioners shall provide a copy of the permit to access state highway from Mass DOT for the proposed development or other related correspondence to confirm the state's approval of the driveway modifications. 7, petitioners shall maintain all plantings and screening depicted on the approved site plans in perpetuity. 8, the private trash pickup may only be conducted between the hours of 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. 9, the septic system design shall be reviewed and approved by the town of Middleton prior to the issuance of a building permit, which approved design petitioner has agreed to provide to the North Andover Board of Health. 10, all new utilities serving the project shall be installed underground. 11, all plans shall comply with applicable Americans with Disabilities Act and Architectural Access Board requirements. 12, petitioner shall excavate a new test pit within the footprint of SWMAGP, previously SWMASP. Results of the test pit shall be submitted to the Conservation Commissions for both Middleton and North Andover as part of its stormwater permit applications. 13, all applicable erosion control measures must be in place and reviewed and approved by the agent for the Conservation Commission prior to the commencement of any site work. 14, a pre-construction meeting must be held with petitioner, petitioner's engineer, petitioner's general contractor, the conservation agent, and the Middleton Building Commissioner. The purpose of this meeting will be to review the phasing of the project and the construction schedule. 15, outdoor construction shall be limited to the hours of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And 16, dust mitigation, including track pads and street sweeping, must be performed weekly or more frequently as directed by the building commissioner throughout the construction process.
Thank you. Motion made. Do I have a second? Any additional discussion?
One question that I didn't catch before, and I apologize. I know we have the IMA. I think we were talking before about restricting any Middleton water to be used in North Andover. Do we want to include that as maybe?
Say that again, Bill?
So we weren't gonna, before we were talking about not having any Middleton water go to North Andover, obviously because we have our water bans consistently. Is that something we want to add to, as like a 2D? Or no? I mean, we have an IMA. What do you think?
Kind of up to the,
IMA? I mean,
yeah, I
I'm
think
good
that's
at,
probably a negotiation we would probably defer to the select board on, maybe?
yeah, just it notes that we can use their water. That's the reason I bring it up. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have either of those in there.
Is it built for this reason, that because this particular project, the building's in North Andover, so it's
Understand.
using their water?
It's both.
It's in both, yeah.
Building splits the town line.
Yeah.
Yeah, but most of the building,
Yeah.
a good
I'll defer to
portion.
you, Jay. I mean, the IMA is getting covered. I know that there's a couple of,
Oh, I don't- yeah, I mean,
select board members that had mentioned it, and, I mean, they're gonna get the IMA, so.
Is it the IMA going to be limited for this site, or is it a more far-reaching IMA?
It,
I would imagine it's probably
So-
far more reaching. I would
It's
imagine, no, because they're
more-
gonna talk about emergency, when they can turn it on for emergencies and all that stuff. It's gonna be more far-reaching, I would think.
so there'll be a provision for this project, and then I anticipate it being more extensive to like what the global interconnection means for the two towns.
I think it begs the question, though, especially with Danvers, particularly if we're in a water limiting situation.
Well, it would touch off, I mean, if the agreement with Danvers is just to use their water in Middleton, we can't then convey it in any way, shape, or form without Danvers' permission as a.
So that's
North
true.
Andover.
No, it's a good point.
Okay.
So, all right.
And we're also in the process of renegotiating our IMA with Danvers for the water district, so I think globally it will be
All
addressed.
right, I'll step down on that comment.
I do have one question, Counselor, maybe you can answer this for me. So do we have, let me rephrase my question. Will our conditions and our issuance of the special permit be transmitted to North Andover? In other words, are we collaborating between what they approved and what we approve?
Not, I mean, I haven't been as involved, maybe it's a question for Jill.
We're required to deliver. So once the permit's issued, we deliver the final decision to the town of North Andover.
So I guess my concern is that we end up having conditions that may be contrary to theirs and vice versa.
They're almost
received-
identical. So when we
we
first
received
did
it.
the decision, we utilized a lot of their conditions
In-house.
and made sure that they were complementary.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and we got a copy of that early
Yeah,
on. So
no,
it was
I
in
know.
I
the
mean, ultimately, the burden's on them. If they have to be reconciled, then I guess we'll see small amendments coming back to us.
And any deviation from this, you'd have to come back anyway for modification. Okay, all right. Motion made and seconded. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So moved. Mr. Hartwell.
Based on the aforementioned findings of the board's authority to grant such relief under 9.5 of the bylaws, I will move, I will make a motion to approve the plans subject to the general and special conditions attached hereto.
Motion made. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any additional discussion?
Jill, what's the date on the plans? Date us through.
One second, I have it on the front page, or second page, just have to look. They are dated August 30th, 2022, revised through August 28th, 2023.
You want to amend that?
Specifically, the site plan's entitled 336 North Main Street, Middleton, 0 Turnpike Street, North Andover, prepared by Williamson Sparagus, dated August 30th, 2022, and revised to August 28th, 2023, consisting of sheets 1 through 22.
Mark?
Perfect.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. Motion made and seconded. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good luck.
Thank you very much, appreciate your time.
It's a full year.
Before I get to the next item, I was remiss before we started in welcoming the new town planner to be starting
June 3rd.
June 3rd. Chris, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself for a minute? And you don't, normally we stand up on the table and sing a song. We're not going to do that tonight. You can just tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I'm kind of starting tonight, but not the full Monty, I guess, right? Yeah, I'm a seasoned planning professional, and I'll tell you that Carolyn asked some really good questions during the interview with the steering committee, and so you were well served by that. And I've worked with CBAs in many different communities on many different projects, the gambit really, and a lot of big 40Bs, and I know that's sort of something that's on your radar too. So, looking forward to being part of the team, working with the ZBA and all the land use related boards, committees, and commissions, and the staff. Jackie and Justin have been great, so it's an exciting chapter for me professionally, and I hope for Middleton as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Members, any questions for Chris? You can't ask anymore.
Okay, I'm not allowed to ask anymore.
Phil, anything?
No, welcome aboard.
Anything, Ann?
We said our highs, yep.
Welcome, welcome. Thank you. Okay, next up is 156 North Main Street. Michael McGrath, application for site plan approval to construct an 8,700 square foot building in 5 individual units to be used as office space and indoor storage for an oil delivery company and other commercial businesses under section 9.5.22 and special permit to allow offices and indoor and outdoor storage for various contracting businesses under section 9.4 pursuant to 3.12. Do we have someone here for that?
Yes, you do. Good evening, Jill Leanne here on behalf of the applicant Michael McGrath in connection with the special permit and site plan approval, as just referenced by the chair. Last time we were before you, there were a few questions that needed to be answered, and we did submit revised plans and have been working also with the Conservation Commission because we did get approval from them at their last meeting. So the first thing I'm going to go through is basically what you see is just the overall site plan. And one of the big questions was, how do you address the need to have the tight tanks on the property, and where do you have your grates in the property? So we actually have lines here. So we have a drainage trench in each of the units in front of the overhead doors, which is required by the plumbing code, but hadn't been showed on the last plans. So we showed them in front of each unit and in front of the unit that is kind of angled toward the back. All 4 of the front units actually discharge to one single tight tank, which is located right here in this area. And then the unit 5 discharges to a single tight tank, which is hard to see, but it's right in this area. So we did show you that we have locations sufficient to actually handle the sizing of those tight tanks and the need to have the drains inside each unit. The next issue was brought up by Mr. Renault, and we actually, I think this was by you, right? We had a situation where there was overflow issues relative to a couple of the drainage
Yeah, the model
basins.
wasn't correct.
So, you're right, so what we had our engineer do was go back, look at it, and then we had submitted that earlier to you so you could take a look. And what we have, we have the installation of Aware in, I'm sorry about that, Aware in this area, which is just a dam to hold back water and then allow it to flow so it doesn't just flow over, which was the issue that was raised by Mr. Renault. We have Aware here, and we have Aware here. So then the third issue that was brought up, there was some confusion relative to the parking. The parking is shown on sheet 5. That sheet set has so much information on it that it's very difficult to end up saying, oh, I forgot you can't do that. So basically, this particular sheet is just saying, okay, we can have a maximum of 12 employees on site. So we'll assume 3 in 2 of the units and 2 in the rest of the units. So we're assuming a total of 12 employees. 1.2, we need 10 spaces. So we have 11, so we have more than we actually need. Then the other requirement is to say if you have any kind of company trucks, you have to have space, and they will park indoors. As was raised last time, this is an oil, the man who is buying and developing the property owns an oil distribution company. So he may park his 2 trucks inside. He could have up to 5 trucks, so we do have the extra space because we're required to have 10 outdoor, so we could actually put one of the trucks outside if necessary.
So are you requesting trucks outside as well, or just inside?
Both, just general parking, yep. It's not any form of storage, it would just be parking. It wouldn't be like, trailers or anything like of that nature, or any equipment, just his trucks. But for the most part, they'll be parked inside. That's the preferred way to store these types of vehicles. So down here at the bottom, we just described, and I recognize that our parking calculations are odd, because instead of saying based on square footage, we say based on employees, and how do you know? I mean, so we're estimating at least we're estimating 2 per unit, plus.
Okay. Where are you with your, well, let me back up for a second. So has this site always been just a vacant lot that we know of?
No.
Huh?
It was a house.
There was a
Yeah.
house there?
Back in the 60s, it was a single-family home, and it was actually zoned single-family.
Okay.
Yep.
Where are you with Mass DOT on this?
We have, I think they started some small discussions with Mass DOT. We aren't even close. We don't even have the 25% done.
Okay. And is the driveway that's shown on the plan, because I thought I read one thing that it said it was for construction access, is the intent to have access right off of 114, or is it to have it off of Lake Street?
It is off of 115. Lake Street is, 114, excuse me. Lake Street is a private way for which this
Right.
property has no access right.
Okay, so, because I was out there and I have a picture of what kind of looks like a driveway, but
Yeah.
it's certainly not a commercial
Kind of,
driveway.
I know, it's, something's there, but,
Yeah, some bituminous curb that kind of goes into no, Bill, I don't know if you want to take a look at that, though, you guys.
right, and that was, and you're talking about right on 114, right, Mr.?
Right.
Yeah, right.
All
That
right,
was the old house.
so Mass DOT hasn't responded to this yet.
Not yet.
All right. Members, Mr. Renault.
So, for the drainage stuff, you had overtopping on 3 of your controls. 1 still is. So, I think he can fix it. We should be able to condition it. It's the underground infiltration system that.
Is it, I'm sorry.
Yeah, based on the calcs that you provided, it's still overtopping in the 25 and the 100-year storms. So, that it should be easily fixed. I think it's just either too deep in the ground or it needs to be increased in height by like 6 inches. So I think we'll just condition that if
May I ask
everybody's cool with it.
which BMP? I apologize. This
The
one.
underground infiltration system.
Oh, the underground, this one right here,
The
sure.
big square, yeah.
Okay. So you want to see
Everything
the,
else got addressed from
Okay.
my previous comments.
understood.
So what was the specific language you want to add?
It's to increase the size of the underground infiltration system so it doesn't overtop in any storms. And I can show you where that is.
But that'd just be a special condition.
Yeah, go with that.
Absolutely.
Anything else, Bill?
No, it's a good looking plan. I like it.
Carolyn?
I think that's
Craig?
great.
Increase the size of all stormwater
Just the underground infiltration system.
underground, all underground infiltration.
It's actually the underground infiltration basin. There's only one of them.
You can call it. It has a.
Of the.
It has a number. It has a number.
So not all.
Yeah,
The.
it's there's only
The.
one underground
The.
infiltration.
Yeah, it's BMP number 3 on this
Place
one.
PMP number 3.
Yep.
Anything else? Ian?
I like that you included some native plants here, except for the steeple bush. That's considered invasive. Who's doing the planting here?
The what bush? I
The
apologize.
steeple bush is an invasive. Who's doing the, is the person
Maureen
here?
Norse was the one, Maureen Norse from, Maureen Harold from Norse Engineering was doing some of the wetland plantings, and then Thad Berry. Thad actually, his daughter is in town. He's on vacation with her somewhere.
Will not include any invasive species.
Well, yeah.
So we can remove the.
That one is,
of
other ones are
course.
okay. That one is definitely an invasive.
Can I have,
so let's
can
get
you
rid of
just
it.
spell?
So there you go. I was wondering why I didn't know what it was.
Because it's invasive.
There you go. That's a.
Phragmites.
And I would never install an invasive plant.
I'm sure you would.
Purple loosestrife.
Oh, God. Don't even go there.
All landscaping shall be free of any invasive species. Specifically, including
Well,
Steeple
let's
bush.
eliminate the steeple bush, yeah.
Eliminate the steeple bush.
Like church steeple.
Right, I thought
Okay.
it says no T. I
Oh,
heard steeple.
bush.
Steeple, S-T-E-P-L.
STE.
You got it.
S-T-E-E-P-L.
Don't plant that.
Don't plant.
Listed.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, so just a couple of things. The driveway has me a little concerned because we have primarily trucks coming in and out of there. And whatever that driveway is, whatever's there now is not a driveway in my view. So speaking of view, and I don't know whether we need to condition this or not, but I'm concerned about sight distance, particularly stopping sight distance, right? And things like that, especially if trucks are coming in and out. So we haven't seen any of that.
It's in that traffic report that he gave you, it's a table, and then there's one sheet that actually contains it. And I had during the last hearing, I actually had a screen of it, and I think it's 400 feet in each direction from the engineer.
Okay. So, all right, so
We can
then
confirm that.
we just want to ensure that, first of all, that there are no obstructions at the driveway, whether they're plantings, if there's plantings, low-lying plantings. And then secondly, that the driveway meets
Sight distance.
appropriate sight distance.
Sure, absolutely. And we'll confirm with the building commissioner. Okay.
Are those conditions to be added, or just
I would put them in.
guidance on the record?
I would like to put them in there, even though Mass DOT, I'm sure, will weigh in on this.
All right, so give me some language.
That the driveway shall meet the standards for adequate sight distance.
Petitioner. How will they confirm that?
Calculation. Which is in the
Yeah, Julie,
document.
I'll submit a document to the commissioner.
Petitioners will confirm that the driveway will comply with
Adequate. And DOT will absolutely weigh in on this, so they should. So, okay.
Rich, I get 2 quick comments?
Yep.
It's okay. Jill, can he add the company truck parking to the chart? He didn't
Absolutely.
provide that. As we talked about, it was 2 per bay, right?
Yes. I mean, up to, but yeah, we can.
Yeah, but I think that's what we'll count. We'll count the 2 per bay, just add it to the parking chart.
Yep, I'll update the parking chart to ensure that that's shown.
And then regarding the outside truck parking, remember we talked, the trucks don't fit in spots 3 through 11,
Right, it would be,
so it'd be, outside truck parking would be restricted to 1 and 2, right?
exactly, because
Yeah.
it's tandem and they're long.
They're longer,
we
so they'll fit the
absolutely-
oil trucks.
And I think that Chief Lacoste wanted that as well, and I should have put that condition in. Because you can't, if you park those trucks, then you can't really get around back, and then it would.
Yeah, you'd cut a good 10 feet into your 24-foot drive aisle.
So
in
it's
the
Craig,
back.
it's the.
Which
it's the
units?
Tandem spaces.
So the outside truck parking would be limited to spots 1 and 2?
As identified on the plan.
Yes.
Anything else, Scott?
No, that was it.
Not that it's our jurisdiction, I'm just curious, where are we with this resource area that flanks the property in the back?
This doesn't, so we're not in any kind of the resource area. You're talking about the groundwater protection district?
no, you're in the.
You're in the buffer zone.
Buffer zone, right?
You already went through
I'm
I'm
just
just wondering, where are you with Concom?
Oh, done. We actually went out, they approved. You're talking about, I apologize, you mean that, I'm thinking National Heritage, because that
buffer
area up there, the buffer zone, yeah. We actually went to the Conservation Commission, and they were happy, because what we are actually doing on this site is, you went there, you saw it, there's a lot of litter, for lack of a better term, in the buffer. So this particular project includes full mitigation for that prior dumping. So they were very happy with that, because that's where all the new species are coming in, so we'll replicate the area and clean it up.
Okay. Anyone have anything else? Hearing none. Is there anyone?
Yeah, the comment about the steeple bush, I've never, and as much as I've taught about invasive species, I've never heard of it. I'm not finding it on like the Audubon website.
No, I got it on here.
You got it on
Yep,
there?
I can
Okay.
see it, yeah.
I just want to make sure that we're not like
Yeah, it's-
restricting
No,
potentially unnecessarily.
we're not.
What list are you looking at?
She's looking at Audubon, I was looking at some garden. No, we're just talking about.
I also
invasive.
just don't even I don't see it on the Massachusetts website. So. Can we maybe?
Well, I guess,
say,
what
like-
list are we going off of?
Right.
Because if you can't find the one we're trying to
Yeah,
get it
let me-
off, then how are they supposed to enforce it?
Well, that's what I'm wondering.
look
I'm
it up.
wondering if we could get, like, condition, so that the, conservation agent would know. Right?
Should,
Yeah, she might, yeah.
We could
Can we
potentially
make it broad
draft a
enough that
condition to say.
the
we will
planting
not
plan shall not include any
Shelley?
identified invasive species in the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
As reviewed by the conservation agent?
Yeah.
As reviewed by the conservation agent?
And as
Yeah.
reviewed by the Conservation Commission. Okay? Let's do that. Okay. Is there anyone here from the public that has any comment or question on this? Hearing none. Mr. Hartwell?
Yeah? Oh. You're funny guy, funny guy. Oh, moly.
You are the man in motion.
Mr. Chair, based on the evidence presented and the testimony offered, I'll move that the board make the following findings. First, that the plans incorporate features and design elements that will improve the overall appearance and functionality of the property and will protect the legitimate interests of adjoining property owners. Two, the uses will not be more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing conditions at the property. And three, that any adverse effects of the uses will be outweighed by the beneficial impacts. More specifically, I move to make the following additional findings. First, concerning the submittal requirements, that the evidence submitted by the petitioner satisfies the submittal requirements of Chapter 235, Section 9.4.3 and 9.5.5. Concerning the project satisfies the community need by approving the project and the uses. The board will be supporting the town's need to develop properties in a manner that is consistent with its current zoning and that will generate additional tax revenue without placing any additional burdens on the town's already strained infrastructure. Concerning the convenience and safety of vehicular and pedestrian movement, the driveway provides safe site, will provide safe site distance as confirmed for the traffic accessing and exiting the property and has been designed to meet the requirements of section 6.4. Concerning the parking and loading areas, the parking lot has been designed to create a sufficient number of parking spaces and loading areas and complies with the requirements set forth under section 5.1.2. Concerning the uses and design of building A in the yard is consonant with the neighborhood character. More specifically, the uses and design of the improvements are consonant. As shown on the plan, the overall design of the property takes into account the topography of the property, the neighboring properties, and the wetland resources. Within 1,000 feet of the property, there's an outdoor storage yard for buses and other large equipment, various manufacturing facilities, distribution facilities, warehouse facilities, contractor offices, office buildings, retail enterprises, and other light industrial businesses. Concerning the adequacy of site improvements and utilities, site improvements will be more than sufficient to address the requirements of the town, abutting property owners and uses of the property. The building will be connected to municipal water and electric. Concerning the natural environment, the uses will have minimal impact on the natural environment. The building will have up-to-date energy efficient systems and components and a fully compliant installed stormwater management system. Concerning the economic and fiscal impacts, the project will generate recurring real and personal property tax and excise tax revenues and one-time building permit fees. In addition to the direct economic impacts to the town, there will also be added benefits of bringing new businesses to town, increasing the number of jobs available within the town. Excuse me. The increase in the number of businesses will add vitality to this section of Middleton and will result in an increased demand for various other services within the town, such as the eating establishment, gas stations, and other similar service-oriented companies. Concerning the construction details, the petitioner estimates that the proposal will take approximately 12 months to complete. The cost of such construction is dependent on the final approved plans and is proprietary.
Motion made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any additional discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Mr. Hartwell.
Based on the record and those findings, I will move to issue a special permit pursuant to this board's authority under section 9.4, pursuant to 3.1.2 in the table of use regulations C, commercial 20, authorizing the development and use of the property for offices and indoor and outdoor storage for contracted businesses, subject to the general conditions attached here to as Exhibit A and the special conditions attached here to, more specifically, 1, that the site plans will be revised to include precast concrete curbing around the entire parking area to ensure that any spills from vehicles parked on the property will be contained. 2, the petitioner will maintain an emergency response plan that will be utilized in the event of any spill in the parking areas. 3, petitioner will maintain emergency cleanup kits on site. Such kits will be inspected periodically to confirm that they remain in good condition and are able to perform in the event of an emergency. 4, petitioner shall increase the size of the underground infiltration system, more specifically number BMP number 3 as shown on the plans. 5, all landscaping shall be free of any invasive species, including but not limited to the steeple bush listed on the current plans. Such determination may be reviewed by the conservation agent. 6, the petitioner will confirm that the driveway will provide adequate sight lines by providing the specific calculations to the board for their review. Or added to the file, should we say. 7, the petitioner shall update the parking requirements on the plans to reflect the current requirements and the proposed,
Company-owned vehicles.
to include company-owned vehicles. 8, all outside parking, so outside parking is limited to spots 1 and 2 as shown on the plans. So specifically, you want to say it for the trucks?
For the trucks, yes.
So, what truck?
Truck parking shall be limited to spaces 1
Any
and 2.
outsides, any.
I have an F-150.
It's
Like,
the
what-
large oil
That's what I mean,
delivery.
so like,
The large oil.
Well,
delivery.
here's,
so his,
but here's the problem, if you stop parking trucks, then you don't have your employee spots that you're required to have
Right.
outside. So when Jill and I went through the calculations, any outside storage of trucks in spots 1 and 2 worked, in spots 3 to 11 are reserved for the employees.
I just want to know how to characterize the
Employees
truck.
may have a truck, it would be any company-owned vehicles shall only be parked in those 2 spaces.
Yeah, that one?
Yeah.
That's what we,
Passenger vehicles?
In spaces 1 and 2, is that what you
Yes.
call them?
Company-owned vehicles shall only be parked in spots 1 and 2 as shown on the plans. Does that satisfy?
That's not it either. Is it? Company-owned vehicles, 1 and 2?
Yes.
Yep. Oh, company-owned vehicles, 1 and 2. So 3
That way the employees park on the
3 to
rest of
11.
them, and then the trucks
3 to
can
11 are
only be.
reserved for passenger vehicles? Do we want to say that too?
Employees.
Yeah.
No.
Would that restrict bigger trucks, right, in those spots, passenger vehicles?
I think employee.
Whatever's
3
going to be easiest for you to enforce.
Keep it at the company-owned.
Okay.
Company-owned or restricted to 1 and 2.
Company-owned vehicles are limited to spots 1 and 2 as shown on the plans.
I like, condition 3, I believe, was spill pads, is that right? And that they would be, can you read condition 3?
Oh, the emergency cleanup kits.
Yes. and it-
Petitioner
and it's
will
in-
maintain emergency cleanup kits on site, and such kits shall be inspected periodically to
So,
confirm.
I always get concerned about sort of ambiguous, what's periodically? Once a year, once a month, once a week? What, do you have any suggestion on that?
No, I think, would those fall under the flammable license that Doug signs?
typically it does goes out.
With the oil.
Who
Yeah.
regulates that, the fire department
the
or
fire-
building?
So the select board issues the license, but the fire chief stands as regulator.
I think that's, I don't even know if that's really in there.
Periodically as directed by the fire department. Would that be fair?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just don't want to leave it ambiguous.
Yeah, and I'll say that the select board will take action on this at their meeting this Tuesday, the 28th, on the flammable license.
Okay. Craig, you okay with that one?
Yeah.
Okay, what was 4? And 4, I thought I had a question too. What was 4?
Petitioner shall increase the size of the underground infiltration systems,
that
specifically
wasn't it.
BMP number 3,
Wasn't that one? Okay.
not to be confused with BMP number 2.
Or 1, or 4,
Yes.
not to be confused with those.
Not to be confused, yes. Okay. Do I have a second on the?
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? So moved.
Based on the record and the aforementioned findings, I will move to approve the site plans dated March 18, 2024, revised through April 22nd, 2024, under section 9.5 of the bylaws, subject to our general conditions and the previously approved special conditions.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Good luck.
Thank you very much, appreciate your time tonight. Enjoy the long weekend.
Very good looking building.
Really nice.
Okay.
336 ready.
Next up, 1018 Boston Street Village, Villbridge Acquisitions, application for comprehensive permit. We're continuing that to June 27th. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair, but I do have a request from the applicant for you to consider, if that's all right. So currently, your April meeting, you moved that continuation to June. The select board are gonna be meeting on the development agreement for that particular project at their June 18th meeting. The applicant would like to renotice and if possible have the ZBA join the select board for a joint session at their June 18th meeting.
June 18th?
Yes.
That's a Tuesday. Okay. Members, any question or comment on that? So it would be a full
we would-
assembly of the ZBA or members?
A full assembly of the ZBA, we would renotice it so that you could open your public hearing that night if necessary. You would be able to deliberate with the select board on, and we would hopefully be working on the development agreement in regards to that residential project that night. The conversation I had with Mr. Onion and the town administrator was that it would be productive to have the zoning board and the select board meet together as we close on that item. And I hope Attorney Tallerman can potentially attend as well.
Yeah, you want to opine on this?
Might be a little tough. I could maybe figure it out.
Zoom you in?
Maybe. I have a thing in Rentham. I have a 5 p.m. and an 8 p.m. So that's, but the 8 p.m. may slide away a little.
Jack, could you give us a time?
It's a little curious because you would have to be, you can't have discussions on a project outside the public hearing for the project. So you'd be continuing your public hearing and have a public hearing embedded in the select board meeting. So, and they'd have to renotice the entire public hearing because right now it's continued for a week and 2 days after that. So it's possible, it's just like procedurally unique. So,
Can I ask what's the goal of having it combined?
I think the goal, from my understanding, was to ensure that the development agreement and a draft decision were in alignment with each other, because there's a document that comes from this body, which is the decision that Attorney Tallerman's working on, and then there's the development agreement itself, which Attorney Tallerman is also working on, but is of the select board. So the goal is to make sure that those two drafts are working in alignment and to iron out any discrepancies between the two bodies.
I mean, it hasn't involved us up to this point. Do you need us then?
well, it hasn't not involved you because I think Bill and Rich have been involved in kind of a discussion group that is trying to get everything to sync up with John and Lars. So we've been trying to get the two to mesh together well. So the goal is a good one. Procedurally, it can be done, but it does mean back-to-back week-apart meetings for you all.
Unless we just go.
Unless we stick to the
I
two.
guess that's my point, is I feel like they've been appointed by this board to serve that role. I mean, that's what they've been doing, and they've been doing a good job of handling it. I mean,
I mean, to your point, the board's gonna, to the extent that some of the business terms are the business terms, but some of the material terms on the development side, you're probably gonna, I'm guessing the board will accept 90% at least of what Rich and Bill are coming up with, maybe with some last minute language stuff on the 27th, if that's our goal, to wrap things up on the 27th, I mean, procedurally. But
if they stand in though, if they just attend the select board hearing as a public hearing without the full.
no, wouldn't be a public hearing, it would be just them attending.
That's what I mean, like if they just,
Liaison.
but they would be at a select board public hearing, it wouldn't be a
Well, it's
zoning
not,
board.
again, the select board is not a public hearing either, it's just a meeting.
Right.
Yeah, they would just be kind of working, it's workshopping.
Yeah.
I'm indifferent. If you folks want to be involved, sure. But
Yeah,
we've been
I
handling
feel
it.
the same way. I mean, if you all wanted to be there, I guess my other question too, at the end of the day, regardless of, and I'm not saying that we would deviate from this, but regardless of the development agreement, at the end of the day, this board will make a final decision on whatever that is going to be, and it could be contrary to some of the elements of the development agreement.
Well, the hope is that it's not.
That it's not,
And-
but
and-
I'm just,
I mean,
if that was the case.
Kind of all
our
aligned here.
our decision is focused on kind of just one narrow band of it there, and the development agreement is going to have some other stuff, and we want everything to mesh up.
Absolutely. Yep, as do we.
And some of the goals, now, we've kind of careened around on how we do it, because we want to make it work for Lars as well, and is it more open-ended, or is it more specific, or is there, because there's still work out there in front of us. So John and I kind of touched base a little bit as I was coming out of town meeting hell, and trying to figure out a way forward from our end in terms of drafting. So just, yeah, on the procedure side, John, if you want, no merit stuff here tonight.
Yeah, well, I guess the only comment I would make is that we're hoping to perhaps have the board have a special meeting in addition to the 27th, and understand that the 13th wouldn't work for some folks. And we figured that in the event that there was a meeting already on the 18th, that this board could perhaps meet and have a further discussion to try to eliminate any other outstanding issues, so that when we get to the 27th, the board, assuming the peer review comes through and the board is satisfied with the peer review and our responses, that the board might be in a position to issue both the comp permit decision and the decision for this project that we're hearing tonight on the 27th. So that's the end game, and understand that you all have various. This is a volunteer board and so on. You have other things going on, but I just figured that rather than just have a subcommittee of the board, that perhaps there's a short meeting with the select board that evening, and perhaps the select board has an abbreviated meeting, and the Board of Appeals continues with that hearing, since the board members presumably would be there that night anyway.
Where's the select board on this request? Would they like us to be there, or would it?
So from my understanding, I haven't spoken with them directly, the town administrator has, but the goal was to try to get it set up if it was amenable to this board. So right now, we're putting the decision to you, and we'd have the conversation with the select board at their meeting on Tuesday about schedule.
I mean, I'll agree with Mr. Renault that I'm happy to attend. I don't have a problem with that. However, I would also offer to the rest of the members here to attend as well. Obviously, if everybody attends, then there's the questions of procedurally how that all gets done.
Well, I mean, we can get the procedures squared away. I'm not super concerned on that. I mean, we're running a little tight for notice and publication for the 18th, given what they have to do, and that no one's going to get anything to a newspaper quite yet, so, but I think it's possible. I'm wondering, and I'm not trying to shrink the process or anything like that. I'm wondering if it's necessary for everyone to be there. We are literally one condition away
I would agree.
from having this
That's my
decision
point. What's
done.
on the agenda when we go?
And even in that
Like, what-
decision, which I
you
think
gotta-
is
you gotta
number
give me something
16,
we're gonna
we're
talk
one
about, not just like, let's go shoot
subparagraph
the
away. Now, it's
breeze.
gonna be a
I
lengthy
mean-
subparagraph, whereas the development agreement has a little bit more moving parts. And we would just want that to work here, and so that they don't bump into each other. So I'm wondering if perhaps, because I don't think the board has had much in the way of objections on the other brick and mortar kind of stuff here, because everyone's done such
I
good
guess
work.
that was my understanding, is we as a board had finished our work. And at this point, we kind of left it up to our designees to negotiate the final product,
So
essentially. and
I'm
then us-
wondering if administratively, and also for the public's benefit too, that has to dodge and weave 2 meetings in a span of a week and a half, if it might be easier just to have Bill and Rich there, provide their input. They're both professionals in the area. There's been largely deference on those kind of traffic-related things to the 2 professionals on the board. And again, we're not trying to put a wrench in it either. We're trying to just do the thing that's most efficient.
I mean, there's a reason why we designated those 2 guys. Because because we're at the point where you go to the guys, that's their lane, so that's
So to
why we're
speak.
only. Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's,
Oh, I see what you did there.
No, certainly understood on that point, and don't want to create any unnecessary attendance at meetings. And I guess the only other thought was that not only on the comp permit side, but there's also the commercial project that we have to get through as well. And the peer review and the timing hasn't exactly matched up as well as we would have liked. And so I thought that was an opportunity to perhaps sneak in an additional hearing on the 18th, since at least several members, maybe all the members, would be at a meeting.
So my hope too, John, is that now that you have a little bit of free time and that I'm kind of done with the town meeting season, is that we could do some drafting before the 18th.
Sure.
And tee up some of the issues. We've been in constant contact with Bill and Rich and Justin. Obviously Lars and has been pretty available, and Jeff. That maybe we can like keep narrowing it down until we get kind of where we are, just on lawyers drafting, consulting with their clients, and then there's a pretty close to finished product that the select board and Bill and Rich can maybe round out on the 18th, and then we've got 9 days to button up some language, and before the board hopefully closes and is ready to go. I mean, it seems to me to be a productive way at it.
Just so you know, too, I had a discussion with TEC on, because one of the things has been these sort of near-term improvements. What are those going to be? You know, signs and pavement markings and that sort of thing. And I asked them to prepare in advance of the next meeting, sort of a summary of things that we could be doing, right? Whether it's signs or striping or this or that, the other thing. So that, because we don't want to just say, hey, we want you to do all of these things. We want to be mindful that there's certain things, but which things are we going to get the biggest bang for the buck, for example? And so it's stuff like that that still has been nebulous for me a little bit, like, okay, what are exactly we're going to do? We know some of the other bigger stuff we're pretty square on. We know what's going to happen with
That's
that.
a great example, Rich, I think, of a policy area where it would be good to have the two of you in with the select board, because that's part of what the development agreement looks like too, is what's the bang for our buck in terms of addressing 114, short-term, medium-term, long-term. So I think that was part of the impetus of that June 18th conversation as well, was to make sure, because if your conditions and the development agreement don't align on something like that, that's a pretty big area.
Right. Right. And that's why I asked for that. I had that discussion with them so they can get a sense of what this is.
And I mean, the discussion has been less about what we all want than how do we get there, given that there's another player, the state, that is going to dictate some things. And we want to build, we started out doing stuff that was very specific, and then we kind of went to a more like, wanted to be able to provide agreements and permit conditions that were more flexible, that allowed them to move within, and upon the guardrails.
Yeah.
And also, but still provide the town with an assurance that we're working to something better on this intersection. What that may be, you know, not quite sure.
So members, do you prefer that Bill and I attend, or would you all like to attend? Carolyn?
I am fine with the two of you attending.
Okay.
Ditto.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to direct our two designees to hopefully attend the June 18th. Is
I'm
it?
not even sure you need a motion for it, Greg, but-
I want some authority behind their attendance. No.
All right, so we will plan on doing that. We will represent the board
I'm happy
well.
to go. You need another lawyer in the room? Like, get out of here. Like, I don't think that's wise.
Okay.
We're trying to be efficient with our time.
All right. So
Okay.
I'll send you guys the details for June 18th as they become available.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Very good.
Thank
All
you.
right. So, that said, we are continuing 10-18, and we are going to go now to...
But-
We need a motion to continue.
Oh,
I thought you had already continued it to the
Your-
we did
27th.
last
Your
week.
motion was
Last
to
time,
June
that's right,
at
yeah.
the last meeting.
It's already been done, so, yeah.
So we're just moving on.
So, we're at 49 South Main Street, Villebridge Acquisition, special permit and site plan approval for the development of the former Angelica's Restaurant into a neighborhood convenience center for the property located at 49 South Main Street. Let's just go with that.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Lars Onion with Villebridge Acquisitions. As we've started all our meetings, just a brief review of the project status. The left column is all the meetings and activities that have happened thus far. And on the upper right corner is the proposed agenda tonight at the discretion of the board. First is to follow up on prior topics, which in fact is a new topic, because we did not do this at the prior meeting, but is to, Joe Piznola from Hancock Associates is here to walk you through the entirety of the civil engineering, stormwater management, an overview of the septic system, the utilities. Ed Bradford from TAT is here to then come back to you with another version. There's actually 3 versions of the buildings based on the feedback we received from the board and the community at the last meeting, with some different ways to play around with the roof styles and the retail. And I'll make some brief comments about the signage. And then Tom Miner from Hawk Landscape Architects is here to walk you through the landscaping, in particular the adjustments we made to the site lighting in response to the request from the board there. And then I also have a summary review of the requested special permits. Member Hartwell had asked for more discussion about what was the justification for the requested special permit, so we'll put together a presentation there to just show some visual examples of what we're asking for and why. And then hopefully Council Tallerman, can talk with you, as we had done at the 40B process, about just getting your feedback on things around a decision condition, so that he would have the inputs he needs to start the work he had just described, he and John working on over the coming weeks after this meeting.
So, Jackie, you and I spoke. TEC received some information, but were not able to provide their peer review comments. That was relative to, well, why don't you share it?
Sure. So the board has TEC's response to the response to the response to the traffic comments in your packet. They are currently reviewing the stormwater and civil plans, which Lars's team will be reviewing tonight. Any questions the board has, I will be sending to Peter Ellison at TEC as we're meeting. They expect to return the stormwater and civil peer reviews by May 30th to us and to Lars's team. Ideally, they respond and TEC responds again, and then we'll have TEC to redo a full presentation on their full review of all 3 of those elements at your June 27th meeting.
Including traffic.
Traffic, stormwater, and civil all together.
There we go. Okay, so we're going to get a presentation tonight. Members, if you have questions, they'll be passed on to the peer review consultant. Okay?
Thank you. So we'll start with Joe. I'll go through the civil engineering.
Good evening. Again, for the record, Joe Piznola from Hancock Associates. So I guess I'll just start with the general site layout, just to refresh the board's memory. This is a 2.85 acre site. It's the redevelopment of the Angelica site, Dogleg. We've got 2 main buildings. Right now, we're showing them conceptually broken up into 8 tenant units. In the first building, what we call the north building, and then 2 units in the south building. We're calling most of them retail, with one restaurant, 1 fast food in the north building, and 1 fast food in the south. Generally, we come into the site at 1 location. 2-way traffic circulation around the main building, 2-way into the back parking lot, and then a 1-way double lane with a drive-through and a bypass, with 4 spaces down front, 2 of which are handicapped. It is a redevelopment project. We are reducing the total amount of impervious on site by 16,000 square feet. Generally, we're making minor grading changes to the site to address capture of stormwater and treatment of stormwater on site, and to reflect the needs of the grades around the buildings for handicap accessibility and maneuverability around the site. A series of crosswalks and connectivity and sidewalks through the site. In the back, there is a gated connection to the 40B for emergency, but that would not be usable to either the residents of 40B or the customers in the retail section. As far as stormwater, again, we're considered a redevelopment project. So running through the 10 standards kind of quickly. Standard 1 is that we don't have any new untreated discharges, and we don't. Currently, the site has some drainage, and it has some on-site catch basins and a connection with an 8-inch pipe to the state drainage system in Route 114. That we are maintaining. That is going to be our continued single discharge point, but we are, as I will describe, making major changes to the system to make some vast improvements with regards to meeting the standard. Standard 2 is attenuation of post-development flows, and we've outlined a system that reduces the peak-to-peak flows for all storms up to and including the 100-year storm. That is done by way of reducing the amount of impervious, but also we have an on-site underground detention system, which I'll get into in a moment. With regards to that, what's happening right now is there's a lot of stormwater that just goes out into 114. As you know, it's a kind of a wide open curb cut, and through the development of the developed site with the parking being pulled back from 114, which has been the discussion of a lot of the traffic comments or traffic work in leaving a strip for future improvements in that area. It also kind of confines our drainage onto site so that we don't have this rush of drainage onto 114. So it makes it a little challenging because the only way out of the site is that 8-inch pipe. So a lot of our design is driven from controlling the flow to that 8-inch. So you'll note that there's a large underground detention system in front of the north building. If you recall from the 40B, we did have this system. It was noted as System P3. It was located in the upper section of the retail site. We've relocated that to make it more conducive to the site layout and so forth. So that system, when we proposed it under the 40B, was again knowing that the 40B was going to discharge to that same 8-inch pipe, and that the goal on the 8-inch pipe was not to have the system surcharge in any storm up to and including the 25-year storm. That's still the goal. That's still what we're using it for. It's just a little bit reconfigured. When we had proposed it prior, we proposed it as an infiltration system, and when we went through all of the discussions in the past with regard to the concerns of groundwater for our neighbors to the south, coupled with the fact that we are reducing the amount of impervious and we don't have the greatest soils down there, we're taking advantage of being a redevelopment, and we're not proposing any infiltration, any recharge. So this system will be a detention system. It'll have a poly liner. It'll be lined, so there'll be no water going out to the surroundings. Its sole purpose is to hold back water and to let it out slowly and controlled, respecting the fact that we have that 8-inch pipe and we don't want to surcharge up to the 25. So it's a lot of extra storage that we, theoretically don't need because we're reducing the amount of impervious. So if you're reducing the amount of impervious and you want to attenuate post-development, sometimes that's all you have to do. That's why we've got this extra system. So that brings us to standard 3, which is recharge. And we're using the redevelopment allowances of maximum feasible compliance. As I just described, to not provide recharge. And the recharge, the maximum extent practicable here, we're saying is reduction of impervious is providing that little bit of recharge in the additional green space. The next standard is treatment. We are connecting to a state system. We have the additional heightened requirements for the MS4 of not only treating total suspended solids, but treating phosphorus. So we do have a comprehensive system of proprietary treatment devices, two to be exact, that we're implementing. For the area on the south, that drainage will be collected through a series of deep sump-footed catch basins, which will be brought down to this point right here, where it will go through what's known as a jellyfish treatment device. It's a filter cartridge system. It's got proprietary filter cartridges that are 54-inch long. There's some kind of a filter media that have 11 tentacles inside the filter cartridge, which is why they call it a jellyfish. And that provides treatment of, number one, phosphorus, but it also will treat a whole host of other constituents. So that has an internal bypass for larger storms. It's sized in accordance with the manufacturer's recommendations for sizing, for the amount of water that we're putting through it. And I'll go over what treatment storm in a moment that we're doing. But it is a system. It requires maintenance, or monitoring, maintenance, all of that, which is part of our O&M. The second treatment methodology that we're using is a system by a company called Ferguson, and it's catch basin inserts, and it's another filter cartridge system in which right in the catch basins themselves there's a cartridge chamber, and each catch basin has two filter cartridges. Those filter the water and again have phosphorus treatment and total suspended solids treatment to meet those rigorous requirements. And those are mainly on the north part of the site where we don't have direct access to the jellyfish and can't funnel it through those. So I believe we've got 4 or 5 of those catch basins that will provide that additional treatment.
Question while you're going to the next couple of things, and I'm sure Mr. Renault will have several questions. I have just a couple. One, we are discharging into the state system, is that right?
We are.
Okay, and I know traditionally the state has not allowed that, so I'm presuming that you're negotiating this with DOT?
Yes.
To allow you to discharge?
Allow us
site drainage?
allow us to continue to utilize the existing pipe.
Because I know they generally don't allow that.
They don't allow. They definitely don't allow new connections to their system. This is an existing system, and our arguments have been that we are stopping quite a bit of unfettered discharge directly surficial to the state roadway from a standpoint of treatment, no treatment, icing problems, flooding problems, all of those things that are better, and that we're doing all of the work that I just described with regards to not overwhelming that 8-inch pipe, not looking to increase the size of that pipe or anything like that. So,
and I guess my second question to that was, do we know where this outlets? Where does the state system outlet?
it goes to the north up to the next intersection, or north of the Boston Street intersection, and then it outlets to the east.
Like behind Memorial Hall?
Yeah.
It's like a box culvert. It's like the drain from the pond, right? Isn't it? I'm assuming it's going into that, right? For the box, there's like a big box culvert that drains the pond, and I'm assuming it's going into that.
Before he continues any further, Bill, you have any
I'll let him keep going, and
Keep
I'll
going?
jump in at the end.
Okay. Anyone else at this point? All right. Proceed.
Not digging myself. Next is standard 6, which is critical areas. We are not technically in a critical area. We've had some discussion with TEC, who says, well, you're not, but it is the Ipswich River watershed, and Ipswich River watershed is strained and so forth. And we've had some discussions with regards to that and what is it about the Ipswich River, and it's about water quantity, but also quality. And I think, so what we've committed to is treat to a higher degree, treat to the 1 inch, treat in accordance with the provisions of that we would be under if we were in a critical area. So the treatment devices that we're picking, the filtration is definitely something that is warranted or required when you're in a critical area. So that's a positive. 7 is redevelopment, and yes, we are redevelopment. I've already spoke to that. 8 is the construction period pollution prevention plan, which we've got an erosion and sedimentation plan. We're setting aside the full SWIP until we get further down the road and have a contractor can really understand the contractor's wants and desires with regards to a lot of the details with regard to that, but we've presented a really comprehensive erosion and sedimentation control plan for that. Standard 9 is operation and maintenance. We've provided a full operation and maintenance, and the biggest parts of those are the proprietary treatment devices, which we are following the manufacturer's recommendations. And the last standard is a illicit discharge. Mr. Onion has signed his life away, saying that he understands the system, and he understands that he's responsible for not having any illicit discharges to the stormwater system, showing compliance with that. So that is the stormwater system. As far as the rest of the utilities, the water, we are connecting in Route 114 to the existing 24-inch main, bringing a new 8-inch main onto the site. That will service our on-site hydrants. We'll have domestic connections and fire protection connections to the buildings. We will be sub-metering the tenant spaces, so there'll just be 1 main meter per building and then sub-meters for those. We'll obviously have to deal with Danvers Water, and we're still kind of doing that collectively with the 2 projects to make sure, but we have done hydrant flow tests at the site and provided that information. And as we expected, there's no issues with volume or pressure with the 24-inch main and 114. With regard to septic, we are calculating the total flow here between the restaurants and the retail at just north of 9,000 gallons per day. We do have an existing on-site system that Angelica's was utilizing. That was upgraded in 1990. We did some initial investigation with regard to the leach field. The leach field for that system is in the dogleg parking lot here. So we had gone out and inspected the distribution boxes and the pump chambers. We excavated around the area to make sure that we had good depths to groundwater and all of that. We are not certified Title V inspectors. We don't have any on staff, but we did bring in Title V inspectors to do a full Title V inspection of the system. They passed the system conditionally. Their issues that are outlined in the report are with regards to the tankage. There's some, obviously age and issues with septic tanks, the grease traps, and the pump chamber. Our plan is to Utilize the effluent field, which is sized for 9,563.
9,580.
9,580 gallons per day, and to put in all new tanks, grease traps, and a new pump chamber. Obviously, we really have to do that anyway to reconfigure it around the new buildings and make sure that we've got the grease traps where we need them for the restaurants and so forth. So we've got grease traps and septic tanks for this component of the restaurant, grease traps and a septic tank for the restaurant portion here, to a pump chamber here, and the force mains, we'll refresh the force mains up to the 2 distribution boxes, and then utilize the existing fields. Obviously,
Can
that.
you show where the existing fields are? I'll zoom in just so I could, it's kind of tough at that scale.
This, it's essentially roughly this area.
That's what I thought it was.
I'm not, we don't have a
It's just-
picture.
Yeah,
It's just hard for us to see
Yeah.
Sorry.
because he's standing in front of it. Sorry.
No.
Okay, good, now get out of the way.
Great.
I can erase the green thing. How about, I'm
I
doing
just wanted to make sure it was clear why
That
it was
helps-
hard
that
to
helps a
see.
ton.
They just couldn't see around you, Joe.
Kind of a combo of a couple of things, yeah.
Right, it's this down.
I see the line now, yep, I got you.
Right there.
Okay.
That didn't help.
Yeah, we actually traced them all out. The Sewer Brothers came in, that's the company name, and they snaked each line, and the snake has a sensor on it, and then they located them, and they painted them, and we located them. So we've located all of the individual leach lines and confirmed they're all fine and flowing. And we even, I mean, when we did the excavations, we were close enough to the system to see the biomap and see that looked pretty healthy. as
Still?
far- Yeah.
Not any watering forever, right? And that usually does, usually that kind of dries them out.
December 2020.
Yeah, that's a while.
Yeah,
Never
yeah.
mind.
And this was last summer.
So you didn't do any excavations near the biomat or anything to make sure that this is
No, we
all
did.
dry? You excavated by it and through it to make sure it actually will allow water through it?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that a report anywhere? Because I didn't note that anywhere. Do you have something
It's
yet?
not in, no, but
So-
we can supplement.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, so with the flow from before, have you looked at how much flow? I know it might have been sized for 9,000 gallons. I mean, do we have any idea of how much water was actually going in before? I'm just trying to get ahead of the question on the mounting analysis because I mean it's right against the property line. So let's be honest, we know that's going to come, and how we address it.
Yeah, did we get any water meter readings for the restaurant?
We did, but it was like the water meter at the last 3 years, like you can get through the Danvers website. I've got some older
Could you
ones.
potentially get that for us just so we can get an idea?
Yeah,
'Cause if it
I
was
mean, what we-
constantly
what we-
pumping at that level.
What we did
then-
look at is the occupancy loading,
Yeah.
the allowed fire department occupancy loading for
Yeah.
all of the aspects of the Angelicas. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's crazy if they put that many people in there, then
Yeah.
I don't know where they'd park, let alone
Yeah.
how much water they'd put through it. But that's two different things. It was sized in 1990 for the seating capacity that was there at the time. Obviously, it was sized to stay under the 10,000. But yeah, we'll go back to a period when it was being used to look at what
Yeah,
those
I think
flows are.
for me to be comfortable, I'd need that, and at least to see that, again, that biomat isn't a big solid mass now. I mean, I've been in my own excavations seeing that, so usually after a few years, without it getting the air or without it getting, the liquid, it can definitely tighten right up, so. Stormwater wise, while I'm got the floor, I'll go if that's good, Mr. Chair.
Say, stormwater-wise,
Stormwater wise, do you mind if I keep going? Or?
Yep, no, keep
Oh,
going,
okay.
yep. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, the detention, I get the concepts. I mean, I think ideally, if you have soils in better places, that you try to get something in the ground would be ideal. I'm
You'd
looking,
like to have it actually infiltrate into the system?
like, infiltrate something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was, okay, good.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
the
yeah,
question
yeah.
I was
I mean,
gonna-
I get the concept. I mean, if you don't have the soils, looking at it, there's a bunch of peat and stuff on site. So obviously you're not infiltrating through there. Maybe just showing kind of from your test holes where the areas, because a lot of this also is sand. So, just to understand where that is versus where your bad material is and your till, right? So it looks like you get the whole gamut.
Yeah.
Maybe just kind of showing that on a plan
Yeah.
at the next meeting would be helpful, just so I can conceptualize it. Okay.
The other thing we can do is kind of look at the two projects as a whole.
I
And what
would-
would be the recharge requirement if this was a vacant site and we were to put this much impervious and the 40B impervious?
Yeah.
And how much of bang are we getting out of the system up on the 40B?
Yeah, that's kind of the thought. Maybe setting some of it further down, and using a hybrid of the detention versus.
Yeah, it's a balance.
All of those,
It's
I
a-
think all of those are options that should be on the table. And
Yeah, it's just a
good suggestion.
balancing because of, the Rowell neighbors that are so sensitive to groundwater table.
Yep.
So we're trying to strike that right balance.
Yeah, and
Where
so
where we are redevelopment, we have the ability to do that from a regulatory standpoint.
but just
yes.
but just reducing impervious doesn't meet the standard, right? So you still have to do something else. So I think maybe looking at both of these systems to see kind of which section's going to infiltrate, which section's not. I mean, if you can get it on the closer to 114, that might be a lot better for those folks.
Yeah.
I mean, you have the septic system that's there, as long as that still can work. I think those are the things I'd be looking at.
Okay.
To try to find a solution, try to find a better balance. 'Cause I think that septic system's huge. So and it's right up on the town line. On the property line, understanding what that mound looks like and all of that stuff too. So just kind of the same stuff we talked about before, and then a better handle on where that soil is to see where you can actually get water in the ground. That would make sense. And if we can get it further away from Rowell Lane, that would be the ideal.
We'll take a look at that.
Did you get all those, Jackie? My
There's a
ramblings?
recording being done, so okay. I'm gonna be referencing that in the
You got my
morning.
ramblings?
You're a fast talker there, Bill.
That I am. That's all I have, I guess, for now.
So that's all I had for presentation on the civil side.
Members, anyone else? Planning Director, Chris, any comment? Okay. Okay, good.
I guess we're going architecture.
Ann, anything?
No.
I do have one question, and it's either for you or for Bill. I'm not familiar with the treatment devices that you're proposing. I'm presuming they're something new?
Jellyfish has been around for a while.
But
these types of
first one
these-
you were talking about? Before we get to the jellyfish?
The filter cartridges are, the concept is not new. I
Yes.
think Ferguson is.
Product?
Product is new, but the type.
Are you familiar with them?
Yeah, I mean, we're using them. I'm not that exact type, but the
Okay.
type of treatment I'm using them myself. So.
And can you just, I mean, my concern would be is the maintenance of these devices. And while Lars and his team may be very diligent about that, at some point, the property's in different hands, I don't know, 20 years from now, whatever. And is the maintenance of these devices, and Bill, again, I defer to you on this, but is this something that's going to endure over time, or is it just going to be one of those things that, yeah, we put it in, and then
5 years later, it craps out and it never gets fixed.
It's a great point, and I think long gone are the days that we can live with maintenance not being done,
Yeah.
deferred maintenance. We're into a point where these systems are complicated enough, they have to be. And I think the state of Maine is on the forefront of making sure that maintenance gets done on stormwater, and the way that they do it is they don't require, what a lot of towns do is they require the site owners to report annually that they've done it. What Maine likes to do is they require that you provide evidence that you're under a long-term contract with a qualified stormwater maintenance company. And that's it, that is getting done. And these systems, before, if you had a open detention area and some catch basins, a landscaper could do the maintenance. Now we're at the point where a specialized company has to do these. And the way the maintenance happens on the jellyfish is they come in and they look at the filter cartridges. They can actually, there's a procedure to rinse them out and refresh them and reuse them. And then at some point they have to be replaced. It's not, the system's such that replacement's expensive, so they try to reuse them and reconstitute them. The Ferguson cartridges they're only $170 a piece. So it's a little harder to know whether they're done. So that's more of every 3 years you just swap out the cartridges.
I mean, I would expect there'll be some sort of O&M process.
We had full O&M, and I think what's best to happen, and what I would offer in way of a proposed condition is that just what Maine does, that we prove that we're under a contract with a competent stormwater maintenance company to do this, to implement the O&M on an annual basis.
I mean, because the other thing from the town side, I mean, is this something that the building commission has to go out and do? Is the Concom going out and doing it? Is Public Works going out and doing it? Everybody's like this, you know?
Heard a hard no.
Private property, so hopefully none of those folks are doing it.
Yeah, it's a private property, but it's as long as I think the contract with the stormwater maintenance company is evidence that if they want to make their money, so if they have a contract, they're going to come out and do it. They're going to send a bill. That's the motivation to get it done. But now if the only motivation is he's got to do an annual report, that then puts pressure and onus on the town to say, oh geez, did we get that report from 497 South Main Street? You know, some towns.
We want this to be maintenance free for the town.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's the evidence that we need to prove. So if there's any question, then you just say, there's a question on whether or not you've maintained your system. Can we see the contract? Can we see the bills?
Yep. So, anything else on the site plan for anyone? Anyone from the public have a question on the site plan? Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Fred Feldman.
Specific to the civil, though.
Yeah, specific to this.
Yes.
Okay.
You might have explained it, and I missed it. Is it missing from there? I know there was a infiltration chamber in that far corner. Is that incorporated into that large rectangle? Yes, there was an infiltration chamber that was required to go in that far corner there.
Up in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that still there? It's just
That
on
is
this
not.
plan?
No, that is not. We've eliminated that as an infiltration basin, underground infiltration. We've relocated it here, and we've made it a lined detention.
Okay,
with-
so
with
that's the
no
infiltration chamber from the other,
Right.
from the
but there's-
40B is
But
into
there's
that.
no infiltration. There's
Okay.
no groundwater leaving that. It's got plastic on the bottom. All it's doing is slowing the water.
And that's the one that the TEC required from the 40B is now a part of that?
Yep.
Okay. And the other question is, and it's, oh, I'm addressing the board, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Okay, I'm addressing the board. The gentleman had brought up the point about that it's approaching the 10,000 gallons per day. So I'm readdressing my question, since he brought it up, the gentleman brought it up, that since we're approaching the 10,000 gallons a day, and he's saying he wanted to be sensitive to the abutters, I don't know if you could consider the combination of the residential and the commercial. Since we're talking about the commercial approaching the 10,000, I don't know if it combines both of them, since he's talking about both of them, if we could revisit, and you were going to look at the implementation of the groundwater monitoring program, since this one approaches the 10,000 gallons per day, can we please look at the implementation of the groundwater monitoring program for this, and then that will combine both for peace of mind? Can we do that?
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that Title V doesn't look at common ownership between buildings, but I think we want to maybe ask our Board of Health folks or the health director to at least have our health director weigh in on that question.
I know you were going to do that, so I don't know if that
Yeah,
was
yeah,
done
so I
already
think
or-
we want to have her weigh in on the two systems, and, considering they are in common ownership, but they're separate parcels. So at least in my experience, that's never been the case, that you kind of look at them combined and implement those. I mean, we talked about potentially doing a groundwater monitoring system. We can evaluate that, I think, once we get through all of the design first, and I think that's
So
when
that's
we would-
something you'll handle.
Yeah, I think I mean, it's on the table. We discussed it previously. We'll figure out how we want to
Yeah.
how we want
I
to
mean,
approach
just-
that, and if we if we go that route. But I think
Just to speak to the question on the Board of Health.
Yeah.
These are two independent parcels.
Yep.
Because it's a 40B, it has to be owned and maintained by a distinct and separate entity because there's profit limitations. And in the state's mind, with regards to implementation of Title V and the allocation of the 10,000,
Yep.
it is, if they're in separate ownership and there's separate and distinct
that's my understanding
maintenance
too.
and operation methodologies, then they do not add the flows.
That was my understanding too. Just
Yeah.
want a belt and suspenders with her. Make sure
I-
she agrees with that concept because
Right. I think
how
the line of
time
questioning
we spent here.
was more, since we're so close,
Yes.
should we implement some kind of groundwater monitoring?
Yep.
And I would just, Title V doesn't require groundwater monitoring, and more importantly, because it doesn't require it, we don't know, we don't have any parameters with regards to what we are doing
We
with
discussed this
that
already.
monitoring.
No, we did discuss this already, and I think that was one of the points that I said. Is like, so what happens if we monitor it and we see something? What's the? I mean, there's
Right.
no. What's the ramification? So,
Yeah.
I think first off, we talked about seeing the soils. I'd like to see that, and then we'll talk about how the horse trading goes between the two systems. Whether infiltration moves to the other side a little bit more, so it's further away from them. That might be the way to go. So I think we just kind of stay the course with the comments you have, and then address that towards the end.
Okay.
All right. That would be my proposal.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on site plan? Yes, sir.
I'll be very brief. Whoops, sorry. Jim Kelleher, 57 Rowell Lane. I'll be brief, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I realize that the discussion of peer review and traffic is being deferred to the next meeting, but so I hope this brief question will be timely. I'm a layman coming up to speed, but I understand that a useful measure of traffic before and after developments like this is something called a level of service assessment. And so I haven't heard that term in the conversations I've sat in. So three-part question for the next conversation is, I don't know if a level of service assessment has been commissioned here.
It was.
Great.
Yeah, level of service, VC
Yep.
ratio,
Yep,
and queue length.
terrific.
We've done the whole thing.
Thank you
Oh,
so
yeah.
much.
Absolutely.
Okay. I appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Sprogis, did you have a comment?
Just real quick, for the record, Chris Sparagis from the Civil Engineering Company of Williams and Sparagis here in Middleton. We are acting as a helper or a consultant to the Blue Haven condominium for this project. I just wanted to speak real quick relative to the infiltration component and the standard 3, the recharge.
Yep.
Where this is a redevelopment project and there's definitely a significant reduction in impervious surface, I know that increases in groundwater levels are a big concern for the folks at Blue Haven. And if we do have a reduction in impervious surface and we are making great strides in increasing the treatment of the stormwater that's coming off of the paved surfaces, which they're able to show, through the use of these proprietary technologies, I really think the board should consider allowing them not to meet the groundwater recharge requirement to the fullest extent and to limit the amount of infiltration that takes place to try to help out the folks at Blue Haven. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other comments? All right, what's next?
Next is to revisit the building architecture, to follow up on the discussion from the last meeting, which was related to the roof dimensions at the top of the building. So Ed is here and is going to show you 3 different options to try and respond to some of the feedback we received from the board and from the community about different ways to try things.
Good evening, folks. For the record, Ed Bradford, principal with TAT. And as Lars noted, we finished our presentation of the architecture at our April 25th hearing and left with a little bit of homework. The design that we presented at the last hearing proposed an alternate design in place of our original application in the design that showed a flat roof version. The slope roof version we presented at the April 25th hearing was, we think, well received. But again, we left with a little bit of homework.
Sorry, I screwed up.
Can I ask
Here is
one
the
question before he moves?
design. Sure. Go ahead.
When were these submitted?
These drawings were submitted last Thursday.
I don't know that we got to it.
Do you have some?
It was
You going
in
with
the
that,
same folder link as everything else that was sent in. The civil plans we just showed, which was
All right,
the
well, we can see them and we'll talk
response to
about
But it
them.
means, we have the rule of submitting
Yeah.
10 days ahead of time, 7 to 10
7.
days.
7.
3
10
p.m.
days ahead of
Thursday
time.
prior.
So, but we didn't get them, so that's my,
Okay.
They were sent to the town?
They
I'm
sent to
checking,
Jackie,
too.
Justin, you,
Lisa.
and Lisa.
Okay. All right, well, let's go through it.
So this does show the design that we presented at the April 25th hearing. Again, we felt the design was pretty well received. The sloped roof option replacing the original flat roof version. The main commentary, I think, or criticism, if you will, that we heard from folks was what could we do to reduce the visual impression of the roof from South Main Street. So it was suggested by some folks on the board that we look at a couple alternatives. One was just to reduce the pitch of the roof. We have that option. A second option that was suggested to us is could we consider introducing a flat portion between the kind of bracketed ends. We have that version to show you as well. And then we came up with a third one as we were kind of working through these that we'd like to share with you as well. So I have 3 vantage points from South Main Street to show you. This is the vantage point at the intersection of Rowell Lane. Again, this is the design presented at the last hearing. The roof pitch on this one is a 12 pitch. So actually pretty steep roof pitch. Option A is a version that would simply take the suggestion of simply lowering the pitch of the roof. So we go from a 12-12 pitch to a 9-12 pitch. 9-12 pitch is about the pitch of the roof of Memorial Hall, we believe. So across the street, there's obviously a certain logic to being in keeping with that roof slope just across the street. So we think a pretty dramatic change on its own there. Again, quick before and after. That reduces the ridge height by about 3 feet. So not only we think a dramatic visual adjustment, but a reduction in the ridge height as measured in the building height. Option B, I think will be better shown in some other vantage points, but we introduced a gable on the north end of the north building. If I go back and forth, you can just see that appear. That's the only adjustment in option B. Again, I think you'll see that better in the next couple of vantage points. Option C, and by the way, that is the new version. We didn't really discuss that as an option, but it was something that occurred to us as we're working through these various designs. Option C is an idea that was suggested by at least a couple of folks at the last hearing, and that was simply to, as I noted, remove the section of sloped roof in between the kind of bookends, if you will, at each end, just to reduce the impression of the roof. This didn't gain as much advantage as we originally expected, and I think that is because that roof still has to do a certain amount of work to screen the mechanical equipment behind. So there's still substantial parapet that's required to screen that equipment from South Main Street. But we wanted to put all these options on the table for folks. Kind of move up the street a little bit. This is the second of 3 vantage points to kind of walk through these alternatives. Here is a view. Again, all of these are from South Main Street. Now we've moved a little bit north, just opposite the driveway entrance to the site. More of a kind of an elevation view. Again, this is the design that we presented at the last hearing, 12-12 pitch. There is the lower slope version moving to a lower 9-12 pitch. So again, we're talking about having a bit more of a connection to the residential building behind, visual connection. We think that adjustment does a lot of work in that regard. Here you can see a little bit better our idea for option B. That's the introduction of a gable roof to the north end. What we're trying to do there is to reduce the amount of roof surface that's visible from South Main Street. What it actually does is in fact, it does do that. It reduces the dimension of that roof, but it does introduce a longer section in the middle that we're not sure is successful. And then here is the flat roof option C from the same vantage point. And then this is the last view or vantage point to walk through the design options. This one again is from about the vantage point of Memorial Hall, looking across the street, Boston Street. It's just, intersection is just off the page. So again, previous design with the steeper pitch 12-12 roof. The lower slope 9-12. Again, I can do a quick before and after. Here's the introduction of the gable roof at the north end. So this was one that we're actually pretty excited about when we first came up with it. Sometimes that's how these things go. As we spent time with it, it's not our favorite option. We'd love to hear others' positions on it. And I think as we spent some time and thought about it, what we don't like about it, to put it on the table here, is we think it takes away from the focus on the entry. In other words, having these two gable aspects on each end from a hierarchical standpoint is not as successful to us. The other aspect of this design that was a bit problematic for us, and you can see it best in this view, is it really replicates exactly the massing of the residential building behind. So it's very symmetrical, almost parroting the residential building behind. We think other options are more successful that keep that focus on the driveway. But we wanted to share it with everybody because we think it's an option worth consideration. And then finally, from this vantage point, option C with the flat roof in the section.
I feel like it's
So- So let's go to the members, because we're all jiggly in our seats right now. I'm talking about this, so I'm gonna go to Carolyn first. You were the jiggliest.
Yeah, no, it's just always fun to see this happen. So can you go back to the original design? Like, it just from this view, you don't have to, so previous design, okay. That's fine. So let's go to A. Love it. I love that it's down, I'm not seeing so much roof. I also like that with the gable facing Boston Street, it's kind of like it doesn't feel like it's a forgotten side of the building. If we go to B, I do feel like that's what we end up with on that end if we face that this
No
direction.
frontage on Boston Street, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it just feels like it just doesn't feel as inviting from the Boston Street side. And then if you go to option C, it's like trying to be a jack of all trades, master of none, in my opinion.
Ann?
Yeah, I'm not fond of C. I like Carolyn's take on
Yeah, this one here.
on that one. Yep, I agree with that.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Does this help with your, like, you got to the end and said, because we're all saying, yeah, and then, of course, you said, we don't really like this one, So does this one here, and I agree with Carolyn and Ann, that this provides sort of some frontage onto Boston Street, but does this satisfy your need to accentuate the driveway, this particular option?
Yes. Yeah, this is our favorite, as the architect.
With the lower roof, but a gable on one end.
Yes.
Mr. Renault?
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement. I think I even asked you to turn it, but in looking at option B, I'm not digging it. I don't like it mimicking the roof line you know, for the building behind it. I totally agree with you, so. Of the three, this is my favorite.
Yeah. Greg?
Craig doesn't
Craig
like
doesn't
to.
opine on architecture.
Yes,
How is
yes.
Frank Lloyd Wright reflected in this rendition?
He's not. He is not at all.
No, then I have no opinion on it.
I
What-
think,
what'd you say?
yeah, we don't have Ann here tonight, who is.
I know.
The architect.
Who's an architect.
Yeah.
But I agree with my colleagues here, with the exception.
I like option A too, it's
You like
fine. The lower roof is better.
Yep. Yeah, I do too.
And we have to remember, there is a patio there on the right, so I mean, it is like an active corner, so I think that it keeps that.
And it accentuates that patio.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think it looks sharp.
I even like the palette in the middle because it replicates the building, the little plaza in town center, and sort of.
Kind of.
I just like the way it broke up the massing. This
Yeah.
breaks it up a lot better, I think. With all the different sections, you know, because nothing's really mimicking. You don't have the bookend anymore, so I'm all on board with it.
So, I think there's a pretty good amount of agreement. Well, obviously, we'd like to let our colleague who's not here tonight weigh in as well, but I think we're close.
Yep.
Who comments?
Like A.
Huh?
A.
You like A?
A. Jay? Everybody's gonna get to weigh in tonight.
Chris, you want to weigh in on this one? This is the biggest decision that we're going to make today, probably.
Oh, Chris or Chris.
Professionals, and,
Yeah.
You like an A as well?
What about this, Chris?
What about this, Chris?
That's okay.
That's gonna be fun for you guys as you embark on this journey together of consultant and planner.
Yes, yes.
They're all good designs. I do have a contribution,
Okay.
if I may.
Yeah.
I would start with bringing the whole building up
Up?
and removing any sort of parking or drive aisle in the front and giving it more of a interface
Street.
with the street.
I
More
don't-
gables in the middle. The articulation is good and the lower roof is good, but that big dead space on the roof still is glaring to me and could benefit from some smaller gables and some design
We talked
elements
about
such
those
as
last
that.
time, little like window gables.
Yes.
They have them on the back building.
Yeah,
If you can
so-
show him those on the back building.
Little design elements
Do
like that
everybody
are
I
not
give
that
it on there?
expensive and
I mean, I do somewhere.
moving the building would
But
be
you can see the
a
one
larger
right there.
lift. But these are like sort of basic.
Well, we
design
never did any
elements that
gables in the
I would
retail
recommend.
plan.
Yeah, we did ask him about doing those.
Yeah. I think some of that was supplemented with having green space and plantings out front to soften, given what 114 is like.
I think Chris is
Yeah,
thinking
that
the
would
part of
be
the
the
parking.
alternative.
You're trying to
the
say
back.
put the parking behind the building so that that's closer, and you still have
Oh,
the green
isn't it
spaces. I
already?
think that's what he's saying. No, there's parking right in front of the buildings.
Oh, I thought it was in the back.
Right, you have you have a drive
it's
aisle
more-
and a parking there, right?
Yes.
It's because there's only a fire lane between
Yeah.
this and the residential.
So this shows you the site plan that shows you the whole layout.
The picture's a little deceiving then. Can we get more of a close-up then to
Sure.
the buildings? Do you have any other view? Shows
I'm
that.
sorry.
Maybe
Shows the
the view
driveway
from
in the
Rowell
front.
Lane, maybe?
Yeah.
The view from
Oh,
Rowell Lane.
so you're looking for the perspective.
Yeah, I mean,
Show
it
the
looks like
parking.
lawn when you look there. You don't see the road that Chris is talking about.
You don't have it in this one?
No, we do. Back up a couple. There you go. Oh, oh.
Ooh.
And,
Oh,
and then the next one.
Yeah, no, that's, I remember.
That one there, yep. That driveway view.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's parking in the front already.
Yep.
The idea of
Already a road there. Right.
Yeah, so that's
Is that what
push-
you're asking?
Yeah, in front of the length of the building.
There is.
He's saying he doesn't want
70
it there.
feet from the
He wants the parking in
Oh,
the
you want
back.
in the back?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It's-
that sits back probably like 70-something feet from the back side on Main Street.
Lovely juice is good for
I don't
We'll
really
get a
know
dispensary there or something down there.
One recommendation
Derek,
that satisfies
Derek
many
did
design.
yes, this is petition to ban it outright.
Yeah. But thank you.
Okay. Anyone from the public have any comment on this?
any Boston Street neighbors?
Diane's been holding on title.
Yes, name and address, ma'am.
Diane Anderson, 7 Boston Street. So, if I were ruler of the world, and I'm not,
Just speak up, Dana.
Okay. If I were ruler of the world, and I am not, I preferred the previous design that we saw in the last meeting. If we can see A again, I know, the one, this is A. Can we go back to the original from the, I liked the higher roof line. If you want my opinion, that's my opinion. I liked it better with the higher roof line. Can you go to the second one? The next, that's
Second
option
view.
A. Option B.
Driveway.
Not
And
the
to the
second
front.
view.
One of them, when I was looking at it, all I could think of was when you go down the turnpike and you have those rest area stops along the way, and you go in for your restaurant.
Yeah.
It just, that's what it reminded me of when I saw it. So, you know, is it, you know, the Mass Turnpike? So it just, not this one. So I am,
Wasn't the vibe we were shooting for.
that's,
So this is
I like, can we go to the original previous, the very,
Sure,
yeah.
that's the one
that-
from last week.
See, that is the one from last week. That's, I know. I zig while everybody zags. That's the story of my life. Just saying. So, but that's my preference. But whatever. I'll just say whatever.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Okay. What else do we have for this evening?
Landscaping,
With
Landscaping?
landscaping and then special permits, discussion.
Okay. All right, how much time, we're about 9 o'clock. Can we get this done in about 30 minutes?
We can
Or
try
less?
for it to be a little less than that,
A lot less
ideally.
than
A lot less than that.
We've been at this for.
Plantings, none of those bushes that we had in the last thing, whatever they were.
I can blow through this in a hurry.
All right, go ahead.
That would be ideal.
For the record, Tom Miner, Principal of Hawk Design Landscape Architects out of Sagamore, Mass. We did the landscape design for this job. As we usually do, on our plant palette, usually we try to use natives as much as we can, but in a situation like this, there's a lot of pavement and everything, we do natives and non-native, non-invasives that are more suitable for the situations. They're more drought tolerant and better survivability. Use a mix of evergreens, flowering trees, flowering shrubs, different textures, colors. We've used quite a bit of different colors in this particular plan, even though there's not a lot of plants here. It's a pretty simple plan. Starting at the top here on the north, we have 3-inch caliper shade trees here. Coming down here, 3-inch caliper shade trees of different variety. Along the south, along Rowell Street, we've worked with the Blue Haven developers to add to their buffer along here that they have. They have existing maple trees, a row of maple trees here, underplanted with some hydrangeas. We've, on our side of the existing rail fence, we've got 39 green giant arborvitaes between those trees to give an additional buffer. And then we've added some smaller shrubs between those. Along this back property line here, we have some more green giants and then flowering forsythias. Up front here, we're keeping the green lawn space for any potential road improvements to Route 114. We've got a mix of masses of ornamental grasses and deciduous shrubs. Deciduous shrubs are purple leaf variety Weigelias that are pinkish flowers. Along our sign up here, we have a mix of evergreen shrubs, shamrock inkberries. They're a broadleaf shrub with no flowers. And in front of them, we have gold flame spireas, which are deciduous, but they come out like with a reddish-orange leaf. Slowly turns yellow, and during the summer, it stays yellow foliage with pinkish flowers. And those are repeated in different areas around the entrances. We have two
two trash areas that are fenced in, and we've buffered them with some PJM rhododendrons and blue muffin wigelias, which are both different colors, flowers, different textures. Down here, around this trash receptacle, we have upright evergreens that'll provide a buffer and separation between these two areas here. Those are Spartan junipers that'll get up 10, 15 feet. And that is pretty much it for the landscaping. Want to hit the lighting, Lars?
Sure. So, quick question for you. In the area that was just shaded green, is that sod, grass? Is it low maintenance, sort of like spreading yews, or what's in that area?
Preferably it's gonna be black, right?
Huh?
This is all lawn. Right now, we've called it out as loam and seed. It'll be a low irrigation, low requirement lawn seed. And we are talking about irrigating the site with a well.
Ann, questions?
No. What kind of shade trees are those?
These are London planes,
What?
good London planes,
London plane tree?
London plane trees. These are Zelkovas, which is similar to the elm trees that we used to have in New England. And these are London plane trees here. These two here are columnar red maple. It's not a red leaf maple, it's a red maple that has green leaves, and in the fall it's got a beautiful coppery orange fall foliage color. And these are existing maple trees along Rowell Street.
Would it be possible to have at least something by the street, a tree or two in there? Like,
Oh,
even if you're
yeah.
like losing a
I'm
parking
sorry.
space or two, just to get some shade towards the roadway?
That was a discussion that we had, that I was under the impression that there was concern about visibility coming out of exiting the parking lot, and also having visibility to the retail signage.
I'm thinking for like even if it's like two, you know, just to lose a space or two, even so you get
So
your
like a
sight
little
distance.
Over here.
Lose a parking
Yeah.
space,
Instead
have a
of a
little
parking
planting
space,
island,
yeah.
like a little planting bump out thing, just for like a tree or two. Because you can slide it further down, so you have your sight distance. It's
Just to break up
just
that
to break
long
up
run.
that. Yeah, I mean, we want some type of
Yeah.
shade tree, I think, in the road, right? Or by the road.
Yeah, we can look at it. We would need to evaluate the impacts it would have on how the stormwater management works as well. But
Oh, that's a good point, too.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
but
can look at that.
we can definitely take a look at that. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm just curious, you know, a lot of urban trees, I know projects that I'm involved with, I'm sure Bill is as well in his career. I mean, you know, the typical honey locust or Bradford pear.
No.
I mean, just like,
No.
thankfully, there's not a lot of that on this plan.
I'd rather not, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, okay.
I've used them both quite a bit, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. They sound good, but oftentimes
Right.
they don't turn out so well.
Craig, any comments or questions?
Are we gonna have planters in front of the
Oh, I'm sorry,
spaces?
Thank you.
We do have, we will be putting planters in here for seasonal color annuals during the different seasons.
So those will be designated for seasonal planting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there they are, right up by the entrances and stuff.
Yeah. We're trying to put them in where the building recesses back so that it.
Yeah, I
keeps
just
the
couldn't see him
sidewalk.
on the
Yeah.
drawing the way it was, and he didn't point them out, so that's fine. No, that's good.
Are the lamps the same, the ones we have down the square?
They are, yes. So.
So they can have hangers on them too?
Well,
if you wanna put
Well, so
color
that's the
on
only
them.
element that's not the same. So they're the same to the style in terms of this coach series.
Yeah.
So the
But
fixture's the same?
the fixture is the same, but the poles are 15 feet tall. And so we would have to have someone climb up on a ladder to water them and all the like. So that's why we tried to focus on getting as much of this green scape on the face of the buildings.
Okay.
and add as much seasonal color as we could.
Anything else? I think we did okay. That was 6 minutes.
We do
Got the
have, I
spread.
did want to quickly hit the lights. We have basically two styles of fixtures. These are the same style, they just have different bulbs.
Yep.
Different lighting patterns in them. This is the coach fixture, which is out front. That is similar to what you have up along Route 114 now.
Yep.
This one here. These are a flat disc with brackets up. Everything is dark sky. There's different shieldings to keep it off onto the property. They are LED fixtures, 3000K, which is a warm light, which is what most of the towns are requiring now.
So LED but lower temperature, is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay.
You want to get that plan real quick?
No.
No?
I think they're good.
We're good?
All right.
that
Any other
correct?
questions from the members?
Picking up on that?
Any
Giving you the
questions
hook.
from, any questions from the public on this? Yes, sir.
Jim Papa, 75 Raleigh. I know she said you're gonna put a well in for irrigation system. I'm assuming they're gonna have to follow the same town of Middleton watering restrictions
For the well?
with the well.
Which there are no
There are none
instructions
for the
for
wells.
wells.
There should be.
Yeah.
They're on there.
That-
Got-
that-
that got
the
vo-
only
that
reason
got
I
voted
brought the
down.
question up
That,
is
that actually went to town meeting and
Yeah.
failed several years
Yeah.
ago.
Unfortunately, it all
A
comes from
couple
the same
times.
groundwater.
This was
People don't seem to
conditioned by
understand
the,
that.
Conservation Commission.
Oh, really? Oh.
They would.
Yeah.
If the
And
And the reason I ask is, with Blue Haven, we have to follow the,
That was a condition of the Conservation Commission for the approvals you guys got.
You're saying for Rowell Lane?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that, yeah. We don't have, there's no wetlands here, so, I mean, we wouldn't restrict that.
If there was, it would be on there.
Any other comments? Hearing none. Okay, we're into our last topic,
Okay.
special permits.
Ed, can I use your clicker? Okay, so this is just to follow up on the request from the previous meeting, which was to describe or explain a little bit more why the special permit is being requested. We're hopefully worth the burdens that it would place on the community. And so this is just a quick, hopefully, summary of that thinking by us. So I'm just going to go through the special permits requested in order. So the first is multiple signs for multi-occupant buildings. So this is 233 South Main Street. So that sort of gives a very quick example, which is just each storefront has its own store. So that's the purpose for that special permit request. And so those yellow bars, which are a little hard to see here, essentially the same idea. At each storefront, there's a sign. The next was signs on multiple sides of the building. So again, 233 South Main is an example, as well as 1 Central at Middleton Green. Again, helps for communication for motorists, bicyclists, and pedestrians approaching. And so again, we are proposing to have signs at the ends of, I don't know why I'm pointing at my computer, but at the end of the buildings on both sides. So again, as people are approaching from either direction, they have quick visibility into those corner locations. The ground signs being taller than 15 feet. So these are some examples. At Market Basket, that's about 24 feet. And I'm saying about because this is using Google Earth elevation thing, which who knows how accurate that is, but this is roughly what the numbers are. The Market Basket is a 24-foot sign. The Angelica sign site that's there right now is 18 feet tall. And then 2 other nearby properties, 92 to 108 South Main and 119 South Main, are also 18 feet tall. So while we're asking for extra height, we're seeking 18 feet 9 inches. We're consistent with these sorts of heights of signs, and we're not asking for any increase in the overall total square footage of signage. We're just trying to create a sign that, again, capturing people as they're moving through to enhance visibility to the tenants that are there. The next is a restaurant with entertainment. So Maggie's Farm, there's a perfect showing of TVs over the dining area and bar area. The 99 Restaurant has the same thing. And Teresa's, is it Teresa's or Teresa's? I'm sorry. Teresa's. Same idea of having televisions. These are the definitions. of the two, why it's entertainment requires a special permit, but again, our only interest is in televisions at this time. An operator may be interested in doing live music on occasion or something else, I just have no idea, but I know it's pretty standard, people want to see some TVs at the bar. The next special permit is about, technically it's requesting to reduce the 10-foot landscape buffer, but essentially to try and get past a question of interpretation of the way the zoning is written, allowing us to have a sidewalk within the 10-foot buffer. We think that having the sidewalk here is a benefit for both the retail patrons and the residences to have walkable connectivity, to increase safety, promote connectivity, reduce traffic, but nevertheless, that's the purpose. And the alternative would be to just take out the sidewalk. And then the drive-through, which I know is the biggest point of contention. So again, the queue length for the drive-through is 360 feet, so 18 cars, and that measurement is from here, so we could go even longer. But anyhow, avoids impacting spaces in South Main Street. And the one thing I would say is that having a drive-through has a meaningful impact in terms of being a catalyst for the entire center, and I will walk through that a little bit here. So first, to talk about what are the impacts. As was mentioned in the last meeting, there's 209 trips associated with the coffee shop with a drive-through, but that's in totality. And what we tried to break down here is what are we really talking about in terms of the difference. So there's 95 new trips, and so there's new trips and pass-by. People are already driving by. There's 95 new trips if it has a drive-through, but there's 65 new trips if it doesn't have a drive-through. So really the net impact of getting a special permit for a drive-through is 30 trips during the AM peak hour. So one new car every 2 minutes. That's the worst impact over all the various peak hour analyses for adding the drive-through component if we were to just do a coffee shop without it.
What, just a quick question before you move on from that. So one of the comments that TEC had in there talked about, the way the analysis was done, like really not looking at the number of passerbys that would be coming in. Because you're not generating trips. In all likelihood, somebody's already driving that is going to come through. You're not, in all likelihood, having a lot of other folks that aren't driving by here coming here as a destination to hit that coffee shop, right?
Correct.
So, I think that TEC is looking at that because I think most of us, and correct me if I'm wrong, because Craig brought it up as well, was it's the sticker shock of the number of cars, right? That's what what it came down to, and I think most of the public was thinking the same thing.
Yep.
So I think you want to maybe look at that to address TEC's comment as a big one, right?
Yep.
And then I would also suggest, one of the other things we had mentioned was, even looking at other spots or the size of the coffee shop. I mean, because that's how they're getting those numbers. That's an awfully big coffee shop, right?
Yep.
And whether you're really going to have all those folks as a coffee shop or if you're going to split it up into something else, you may be looking at the number of trips being the issue because of the coffee shop size and the way you were so conservative with your traffic numbers.
Yes.
So maybe I look at that chart.
I'd like to add on to, because I had a long discussion with TEC as well about this. There's actually two factors relative to pass-by trips. One's 90%, one's 55%.
Yep.
I agree, this was probably over-conservative. The other thing, too, is if you look, there's 2 Dunkin' Donuts, a Starbucks, and a Roman Joe's.
McDonald's.
McDonald's. I mean, presuming that everyone looking for coffee would be going here, I think is inaccurate.
Yep.
I think the Dunkin' Donuts, the 2 Dunkin' Donuts and the Starbucks.
3.
3 in town.
Actually, 4, because there's one at the Essex Sports Center.
Right, I'm talking about like on this corridor.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Within a short distance, right? Within this corridor. I think the 2 Dunkin' Donuts and the Starbucks, from a square footage perspective, they're actually bigger than this. Am I correct?
I believe that's right.
Oh, is that
So
true?
the square footage.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
So the
what
square
they told
footage of those other, and I got this from TEC.
Yeah.
The square footage of these other establishments is actually bigger than this one.
Yeah.
So I think looking at this again, and I'm interested in, again, hearing from TEC's perspective, because if you look at one thing and say, okay, here are the factors that you use for a pass-by trip, so on and so forth. my colleague, Mr. Arnault, just said the same thing. I think it's probably over-conservative in terms of what this is gonna generate.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of a thing. So that's kind of how, I'm looking at it from a traffic perspective.
Sure.
But building on the point too, right? I think I brought this up at the last meeting. If you look at the efficiency to be able to get 209 cars for that use through, I mean, whatever that franchise in, I'm all in because I mean,
Right.
4 cars a minute is not happening. I mean, that just can't physically happen, right?
Yeah.
So Aroma Joe's, when they submitted to us, looked and did an analysis based on obviously their model, right? Looking at that, remember that? So
It was like, basically, best case scenario was like 4 minutes per customer.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at Dunks, that's by like the McDonald's, you'll see the same thing. I mean, that's queued, and you're not getting through that in a minute. I mean, never mind 4 cars. So I think maybe just kind of looking at this stuff and taking another approach at it, it might make a little bit more sense to be more realistic to what this request is.
Yep.
And the board.
And just one last thing from my perspective. If this was a drive-through that potentially would have cars queuing up into the travel way, I would have a big problem with that.
Yeah.
If you have cars queuing up on site, have at it, that's your issue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're gonna want good circulation within the site.
Yeah.
I don't think you would want traffic backed up on your site, and we've seen this recently down the street.
Yep.
That it was backed up onto another street and around the building and all this other stuff. So it's in your interest to have good circulation, safety, all those sorts of things as well. But I looked into this, as sounds like, Bill, you did too, into this a little bit deeper, and I think it was very conservative.
Yeah, I gave it a little bit more thought and just kind of looking at the numbers,
Yeah.
So I was just like, it doesn't seem to make sense. It looks like TEC kind of picked up on it too, probably from your conversation, Rich, but.
Yeah, and I will certainly go back to ask Jeff, but my sense from him is that given just all the hot buttons around this intersection and the fact that all this has to go in front of Mass DOT as well, that's where these numbers come from. Of course, when I asked him for what's the traffic generation for a coffee shop without a drive-through, then using the ITE numbers weren't right. Then it was using actual field data because it made it twice as big of a delta as it would be if we just use the tables because there's just not a lot of data behind it. So.
And you could always stick up, a couple of tubes at an entrance, or send somebody up to count a couple of these, just to see if if that does the trick. I mean, you can see how these are operating. I mean,
What do you say?
it'll give you a better idea.
Is that what you said?
Yeah. I mean, we got enough of them in town.
When
so
the marijuana dispensaries were coming in, nobody knew what they were going to generate, and you'd see a traffic study that go count 6 of them and have some data to actually prove what they're actually generating. So things like that. But one other thing too, I want to mention. It was a few slides before that. One of the permits was the sidewalk. As far as I'm concerned, we need to be accommodating pedestrian activity and connectivity. So something like this, I would hope that we would be doing something like that personally. It's my personal viewpoint on that, but you can continue. How are we doing? 20 minutes.
I'm moving as fast as I can, I promise. So anyhow, that's, using the analysis from Jeff, this is what the impacts are for just adding the drive-through. For the special permit for the drive-through, it adds 1 extra trip every 2 minutes, if all those numbers are right. Based on what we just talked about, it's probably even less than that in reality. But the reason for the drive-through is to try to attract a higher quality operator. So I know in previous meetings, some members of the board have expressed displeasure with certain operators. There's the chance of seeing them here. I share that view. Sorry. But to try and get the best kind of an operator there, having a drive-through is important. And the reason is the primary opportunity is for capturing commuters. It's a bedroom community where most patrons are leaving or coming back in the morning or the evening, and so the ability to capture business during those 2 ends of the day basically allows the business to supplement providing the all-day amenities of a place that's you can go and sit and stay is the primary thing. It's what Starbucks used to be, where you'd always go there to hang out and meet with people. So again, the commuter sales subsidize the all-day amenities. And this can also help create a sense of place. It's a place to go to and meet people and hang out as opposed to just grab a cup of coffee and leave again. And again, it's a catalyst for the entire center. So, again, we're a neighborhood convenience center. We don't have a grocery anchor or something like that that's drawing traffic continuously, and something like this can serve as that continuous repeat user, which drives up the quality of the operators that come to the space. And that repeat reminder, oh, you know, there's a floor shop there, or I'm going there anyway, I'm gonna swing by the bakery or what have you. It all it becomes self-reinforcing. It's all a positive thing. Quality brings quality. And again, pair that with other morning and midday uses. So if people are on the commute side way to work, maybe there's a fitness studio or a yoga studio. There's a dry cleaning drop-off pickup place, maybe an ATM bank or a florist or a bakery, depending on, you know, whether it's early morning, late morning. But the idea is that you pair that together, which then offsets the evening demand of a restaurant use when people are going to come and go to grab food. So trying to balance out the trips and the demand for parking throughout the day. And another option, a positive, is providing another option for the community. So there's obviously, as we just discussed, several outlets in town, but the focus here is to try and attract someone who has a business model built around sit and stay, as opposed to just grab and go. We have been talking to a few operators that are not already in Middleton. Some have different kinds of coffee in terms of what they brew or how they do it, different methods or different menu items beyond just coffee, different ways of doing seating. So that picture is an example of, you know, the sit and stay kind of lounge around type atmosphere, different approaches to activating the space. But the feedback we've received from everyone is that drive-through is critical. There's not enough demand in terms of midday walking business to support the operation. And so having a drive-through is a critical element to make that possible. So again, it's one new trip every 2 minutes to capture the commuter sales that allows to subsidize the all-day sit and stay, and quality leads to quality. And then lastly is about the dimensional special permits we're requesting. This is all related to granting the easements to the town to enable the street widening. So on reducing the open area, currently there's 12.3% open area. After the easement, there'd be 18.6%, which is better than the 12.3, but less than the 25% required. So it's improving an existing nonconformity, and if we weren't doing the easements, this plan complies with the zoning. So it's only because of the easement. And that just is a reminder of how paved Angelica's is compared to what we're proposing to do here. And then again, on the front yard, so the front yard requirements in the business district require 30 feet of open and green space in the first 30 feet of the the front yard. So on South Main Street, the existing minimum condition is 4 feet. We're proposing after the easement for it to be 6 feet, or again, it would be 30 feet without the easement. So again, we would conform. And on Boston Street, currently it's 0 feet existing. It's paved right up to the edge of Angelica's. And then after the easement, it would be 18 feet of open green space. And again, if we weren't doing the easement, we would comply with the 30 feet. So that is the rundown of all the special permits and why we're seeking them. So I know there's concerns about the drive-through in particular, but I just can't emphasize how much it's important to us to try to get the tenancy to match what we think of the architecture and the rest.
Okay. Comments from the members at this point?
I guess my biggest comment is what's good for business doesn't necessarily mean it's good for the town. And I haven't heard anything that sways me that this is good for the town, the drive-through part. So that was what I had specifically tasked you with. What's the benefit to the town? I know it's a benefit to you and to your development, but how does the town benefit by having a drive-through there? Because all I see are issues, and you're talking about drawing people into that development. Personally, I'd rather they keep driving, because that's fewer interactions in that intersection that we would have to deal with if they just kept going. So I have a hard time seeing the benefit to the town by having a drive-through there. So again, I kind of gave you marching orders last time that to come with some benefits that outweigh the adverse effects, and I'm not hearing them.
Okay.
Just being very clear that I have not heard that.
Okay.
Okay. Ann?
You don't think upping the quality of that store would be a benefit to the town?
No. I think you can have an equally good cafe there that does not have a drive-through. That encourages sit-down, customers but to have any drive-through there, I have not seen anything that adds a benefit to the town. There's outdoor seating in other places throughout the site. Those are great. There'll be great seating areas. I would encourage people to go down there 100%, but there's no benefit to the town in my eyes by having a drive-through there. It's only adverse effects at this point, and trying to mitigate those adverse effects.
Craig, I want to understand too what your concern is as well. Is the detriment to the town the traffic component of this?
It
Or
is. That's a big part of it, right?
Okay.
I mean, that is the biggest, I would say, right? I mean, if you go through that area during these peak hours, you're going to add these additional, basically, interactions by people going in and out of that driveway with multiple lanes of a state highway there.
Yeah, but you're assuming people are gonna do that, though. I mean, let's be honest, if you're trying to get a cup of coffee, right, just yourself.
Right.
And you had to go across you're going northbound, you gotta go across 2 lanes of traffic?
I don't know, is
You're
it a
gonna go up
Cafe
to the
Nero
Dunkin', you're just gonna
that
keep
we're
driving and go to the
drawing
Dunkin'
people
Donuts,
into?
aren't you? I mean, I don't know.
We saw what happened with Starbucks, and it ended up a nightmare with going both ways, right? So, I mean, how can you tell me that this is gonna be any different, if not worse?
That's more queuing though, right? That goes into the street and blocks the roadway. I think those are different issues. Personally, that's how I see it. Folks coming out of
That's
there,
fine.
I don't see that
I
as
mean,
a problem.
You can talk the numbers you want, but
Yeah.
from living it and being down there on a daily basis,
Yep.
to encourage a drive-through there, I don't see that as a benefit to the town. That's the standard is the adverse effects have to be outweighed by the benefit to the community. That is the special permit criteria. What's the benefit to the community has to outweigh those adverse effects. So if the adverse effects are this stack over here, and you've got nothing here, the scale is way down over here.
Well, I would say the.
But you're not gonna get a higher quality coffee tenant without a drive-through in this current market and.
That's a
in the
business
future market.
decision. That's not a town issue.
No, that's a.
You're just not viewing that as a benefit.
Right. I don't see that as a
The
benefit.
the additional tax revenue,
I don't see it as a benefit that outweighs the impact on the traffic.
So,
But what about the
hang on.
residents?
So, as you all know, probably my biggest focus on this particular project has been the traffic, no question. I need to fully understand because I'm with you in terms of this being adding another nightmare to traffic. If, however, the peer review from TEC and the traffic evaluation from VAI demonstrates that, you know what, while we're always concerned about these drive-throughs and what they generate. For example, the Dunkin' Donuts that's up on North Main Street, right? I don't know who did the site distance evaluation there, but when you come around that corner, that driveway's right there. I would have never approved that, ever. But it's there, right? How many cars is that generating? Sometimes those cars are back out onto 114. You come all around the corner, and there it is. If the traffic data and the peer review from TEC says, you know what, don't even think about this, I have the same concerns as you. If they think that the mitigation associated with the improvements and what this establishment, whatever it's going to be, generates traffic that is less than what we would be willing to accept, then that's a different conversation for me. You know what I mean? And I'm with you, Craig.
And we're not ending the public hearing right now. I'm just telling you right now,
Yeah.
here's the scale. Like, that's the information that maybe comes to us next meeting when we discuss it, but
Yeah.
Right.
we're talking about the criteria for the special permit. And I'm just
My
being very
initial-
clear as we're doing all of these site plan analyses and looking at the architecture
agree
that
Couldn't agree more.
the special permit is not guaranteed.
I
still
think
get
the initial
land,
numbers.
though.
I think the initial numbers were overly conservative.
Yes, no doubt.
In terms of adding, in terms of
Making it work or not making it work.
on the high end of estimating the daily peak hour
I think they
trips.
overestimated.
Way overestimated.
Way overestimated.
In my mind, yeah.
That it's gonna be a problem or not be a problem?
Not.
Like,
Not gonna be
they're
more.
estimating more than.
They're
More
estimating more than
impact.
this is actually gonna generate. First of all, the building is smaller, number one. Number two, they only used 55% pass-by trips versus 90% pass-by trips. They were overly conservative on the number, meaning that it's gonna generate much less than that. Now, I wanna hear that.
But that's additional trips, right? That's looking at how many additional trips out of the 23,000 daily trips on 114 is it going to add? I'm not as concerned with the additional daily trips going by on 114.
Right,
It's
the peak hour.
It's the interaction during the peak hour of those cars going in and out of that intersection with the drive-through adding to that. I mean, it's great. We're going to have 10 tenant spaces there, and I hope they're all full, and all the parking spaces are full. Fill the parking spaces.
Yeah.
Don't use the drive-through. I think that additional volume, the additional interactions caused by that drive-through will cause greater adverse effects than outweigh any benefit that you're going to provide.
Well, also well, let's not forget though, easement and additional capacity to the intersection is kind of a really big deal. I mean, we're getting land. That's not something you can easily get. This project goes through and provides us land. In my mind, that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. I mean, you know, if we don't get the drive-through, the land goes away. That's a huge opportunity that the town's losing. So that's kind of how I'm seeing this, but you know, that's my perspective. But again, I think you got to understand to weigh the adverse impacts. You have to understand what the real adverse impacts are, not an overestimate that shows way more impact. If that makes sense.
Carolyn?
I'd love an opportunity to weigh in. Not on traffic. I mean, kind of, but not really. This is I'm not sure. I don't know. Remember the language you used. I don't know if you said like community center or like meeting space. I have never, so I guess it is about traffic, because I have never seen a community space that has a drive-through lane going right through it. I don't consider that a welcoming space for humans to enjoy. My other concern is that I commute far more than I want to, and I see people. I mean, we're all in a hurry, right? I envision people pulling in to go around to that drive-through. They're gonna fly down, turn around, and come back, making it an even less inviting and potentially dangerous space. Like I look at it as like a, I don't know what's it called.
It's a straight. It's a
straight.
They're gonna
It's
gun
a
it right
straight.
down.
Drag
It's a
race,
little-
you're gonna
yeah.
dragway?
And that makes me really, really concerned. Now, we've avoided that in other spaces because for different reasons. Still a concern. It wasn't quite as long, but traffic outside of the space aside, it's hard to see it as a community gathering space when people who are in a rush are going to be coming through it.
Okay.
It's my 2 cents.
All right. Anything else on this? Okay, so that's the summary of special permits. Our next meeting on the 27th, TEC will be here. They'll be talking about stormwater and their peer review comments for that and site plan. We'll be talking about and wrapping up, hopefully, all of the issues relative to traffic. This will certainly be a part of that discussion. And then Bill and I, in the interim, will be meeting on the 18th with the select board.
Yep.
Enjoy that.
I'm bringing popcorn and stuff. Is there anything else that we need to discuss tonight? I would go to the public, but that was just really, we weren't really going to get into the discussion on all the special permits yet, but it was just sort of we had asked them for a summary of that for this evening, just so we know what's going to be before us. And you heard some of the comments from the members. So is there anything else anyone has to offer or would like to discuss? All right, so we will
Continue to the June 27th meeting?
June 27th meeting. Now, just before we do that, there was some discussion about something on the 20th. Is that on the table or off the table?
I think that was the 18th.
That was
right?
the 18th.
It's the 18th.
That was the select board meeting. on
That
the
was-
18th.
Select board meeting.
Okay, it's now the
'cause
18th.
In the email, it was discussed
Oh,
as
right,
the
okay,
20th.
got it,
but
okay,
was-
all right, so, yes, so there's a motion to continue to June 27th?
Seconded.
Do I have a second? Motion made and seconded. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. So moved. Jackie, I have two agendas. One I took off the Google Drive and one that was passed out tonight, and I had a new public hearing at 208 South Main Street. Is that, that's not here, right?
No, and that's not on the
Just the
posted
advertising.
agenda. They did not pay for their
Okay.
advertising in time.
It's on-
They'll-
But it was on the agenda. I printed out off the Google Drive. So that's
all
why.
right.
It's probably the old draft, so apologies.
No worries. Okay, all right.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, seconded by Ann.
We have a staff, we don't have
Staff
staff for
report.
another like week. So we don't have staff for like a week.
Yeah, we don't
Wow,
need to-
chopped liver over here, Scott and I.
I don't want to shortchange them.
I know, that's what I was gonna say. Well, Jackie has things to offer.
Do you have anything to offer staff?
Not at all, please, thank you,
Please
no.
don't-
She packed
don't-
up her computer like
Are we good?
30 minutes ago.
We do have a motion, and it's, without objection, we're adjourned.
So moved.